Phoenix's identity was very special. Phoenix's identity was very special. Long Fei had told her several times that she absolutely could not let the Phoenix be harmed. Also, Bailey Tianhai was very clear that the Phoenix was very powerful, and her strength was something that not even all of them combined could compare to. But Long Fei did not want the Phoenix to reveal its true strength. He didn't know why, but he knew that there must be a reason behind Long Fei. She did not want Phoenix to go on stage. If anything happened, he would let Long Fei down. Seeing Wu Hua on stage, Bailey Tianhai said, "Wu Hua, be more careful, it's not important if you lose, what's important is your life." Wu Hua turned his head to look at them and nodded, "I understand." Boom. He took a step through the air and quickly landed. The disciples around him were already prepared. Seeing Wu Hua landing on the ground, their eyes were all slightly cold with killing intent filling them. Wu Hua was not afraid, and laughed coldly, "If you want to die, then come at me, I will make sure you do as you wish." Very arrogant. After all, the ancient alchemy technique's alchemy realm was extremely strong, at least it was not something these sect disciples could defeat. However, just as Wu Hua was speaking, he felt an ice-cold aura staring at him from behind. He looked over. Zhong Xian's eyes narrowed. There was a divine light under his feet, and his aura was completely different from those of the sect disciples. His aura was much stronger, and he felt as if his mind was being crushed by an invisible power. Wu Hua's mind moved. The power in his body surged. Boom. A flame ignited in his mind. 5 elements fire. This was also his power of life, directly burning away the pressure exerted on his mind. Wu Hua curled the corners of his lips slightly, "Powerhouse of the divine space? It's nothing much." Wn Jian calmly said, "Has this disciple already taken his place? Use the materials on your alchemy stage to refine the best pellets. Begin." As soon as he finished, the 200 alchemy masters began getting busy. Wu Hua was not in a hurry. He first understood the attributes of the spirit grass, then directly gave up on the pill furnace. With a wave of his right hand, flames burned, and the idea moved. The burning flame immediately took the shape of a pill furnace. He was the 5 elemental fire, and his control over fire had already reached a level of perfection. Compared to the previous match, Wu Hua was even more serious. Without a trace of laziness, he focused all of his mind into training. The instant he started his alchemy, rays of flame appeared out of nowhere onto his body, and instantly formed a shield. This kind of shield plus the realm of his alchemy. It would be hard for even the surrounding normal sect alchemist to enter his alchemy. The difference in levels was too great. There was no way to enter. The surrounding people were slightly startled. The eyes of the several elderly deities on the stage were also cold. 5 elements flames? He even has a 5 elements physique. Humph. Even if it's the 5 elements divine body, it's useless. I'm going to die soon. That's true. A small mortal sect actually dares to be so arrogant. If we don't teach them a lesson, they will think that our ancient family is nothing. Wu Hua quickly carried on. A few clan alchemy grandmasters beside him wanted to enter Wu Hua's alchemy world to cause interference, but their idea could not enter at all. He was knocked back time and time again. Moreover, the 3 alchemy experts were all shocked to the point where they vomited blood. Zhao Dahan became excited. "Ha ha ha. Done. Brother Fire is amazing. I could tell it was going to work just from his serious look. Ha ha ha. Look at the other alchemy masters around him, all of them pale from the shock. I think they suffered internal injuries." Serves him right. Bailey Tianhai did not speak, his gaze fixated on the middle-aged man behind Wu Hua. The same goes for the Phoenix. Ha ha ha. Wu Hua laughed loudly. "My pills are about to succeed." As the spirit liquid was released, it quickly solidified. The pill was about to form soon. Moreover, once this pill was formed, he was absolutely sure that it would be number 1. However, suddenly, his alchemy world suddenly collapsed. Rumble. Rumble. The entire time was collapsing, as if a plane was collapsing. The power of powder vanished in an instant. Phut. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes were glowering, and his eyes were glazed over. He did not give up, and the flames on his body suddenly exploded. Rumble. Ah! 10,000 burning heaven. Open. The flames of the power of life immediately wrapped around his entire body and shot up into the sky. He wanted to use the power of his own flames to reconstruct the world of alchemy. However, the moment the flames shot up into the sky, boom, a layer of sky suddenly came crashing down, directly extinguishing the flames on his body. Not only that, his body sank and he fell to his knees. Puff. Another mouthful of blood sprayed out. This time, he spat out black blood. His face was incomparably pale. Even so, he was still protecting the pellet that was about to take shape. Even if his alchemy power disappeared right now, it didn't matter much if the pellet was formed right now. As long as he didn't get first place, he could still enter the top 10. The top 100 challenge competition was a test of overall strength. As long as the pill didn't shatter, there would be points. However, the god's disciples behind him suddenly moved. Boom. The power directly struck Wu Hua's palm. Ah! Wu Hua let out a blood-curdling screech, his palm instantly pierced through by another strand of energy, and all the pellets shattered. Blood gushed out from his palms. You dare to challenge us like this? You overestimate yourself. Go to hell. With that said, the god's power, like a vertical gigantic spear, directly thrusted down towards Wu Hua's head. Bailey Tianhai's pupils tightened. In that instant, he subconsciously turned to Qian Xianbel and said, Lady Xuanji. Not waiting for him to finish, he discovered that the phoenix beside him had already disappeared. Rumble. 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 The power of the giant spear struck down, God's disciples' forehead turned sinister. The dust dispersed. Wu Hua's figure disappeared. A little girl was left behind. Phoenix. Phoenix glanced coldly at God's disciples, glanced at the shattered pills, turned, and left. The god's disciples did not stop and shouted, You want to leave? Leave your life behind. With a single step, he caught up. Phoenix slightly turned around, her ice-cold eyes flashing with a cold light. At this moment, bam! God's disciples immediately knelt on the ground. Phut! A mouthful of blood sprayed out. His entire face was extremely pale as he knelt on the ground, unable to move. He stared with huge eyes towards the distant phoenix. Cluck, 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 cluck. Until the moment when the phoenix returned to the position of the ancient antiquity, the joints of the god's disciples let out a series of explosive sounds, and his body broke off piece by piece. An instant kill with just a glance. An instant kill with just a glance. It was as if his entire body was made of ice, shattering and falling to the ground. The entire audience was stunned. What was going on? I don't know. Even the elders of the ancient family S were stupefied. They sat in their seats for a long time without being able to recover their senses, and they did not know what had just happened. This was the god's powerhouse. But he was a disciple of the divine space. To be killed in an instant, and by such a method at that, how high was his cultivation level? How terrifying was it? It was simply unimaginable. Although they did not know who did it, they did not think it was Phoenix because no matter how strong a little girl was, it was impossible for her to kill the god's powerhouse. At this time, one of the elderly gods stepped out, directly landing in the middle of the god's matrial ground, his voice low, Who is it? Who dares to kill our people from the Hong clan? Who is it? Come out. The old man's voice was filled with explosive power. At the same time, his eyes stared in the direction of the ancient antiquity, looking at the phoenix, then looking in the other direction. Do you know the consequences of offending my ancient Hong clan? A mere mortal world dares to oppose the divine space. I think you must be tired of living. The identity of the high and mighty divine space was revealed. It was as if God was looking down on all living beings. The flames of fury burned. At this moment, Phoenix stepped forward. Just as he was about to speak, he was stopped by Bailey Tianhai, who shook his head and said, We can't go. Boss definitely won't let you go up if he's awake. If Phoenix were to go up, her identity would definitely be exposed. Even though He also did not see clearly how the phoenix had used a single glance to instantly kill that god's disciples, but he believed that it must have been done by the phoenix. With such a powerful strength, once it was exposed, who knew what kind of experts it would attract? Phoenix's eyes darkened and she did not move. The old Empyrean god roared, "If you dare to kill a disciple of my Hong clan, scram. If you have the ability to do so, admit it. Come out. Come out and die. Come out." No one dared to make a sound as the entire hall was completely silent. Phoenix couldn't resist it several times, but they were all stopped by Bailey Tianhai. However, even if Phoenix did not go up, the hidden Dark Apostle S would have been able to tell at a glance that the little girl was the person they were looking for. It appeared. That's her. Heh. 8-cycle body, Phoenix King bloodline, a genius that will rarely appear in the Phoenix clan in the past billions of years. After her blood vein ascends into the sky, she will become a peerless powerhouse. The reason why the great emperor wants her is because he wants the Phoenix King blood in her possession. Now that he has appeared himself, it would save us a lot of trouble. Target locked. What do we do now? No rush. Since she dared to reveal her identity, we definitely won't let her escape this time. Dark Apostle had already locked onto the target. Others might not be able to see how Phoenix had killed her, but they could clearly see the power and might of the Phoenix King blood. Almighty attribute. The all-powerful element of the Phoenix King blood. The reason why the god's powerhouse could release such a pressure was because his body was frozen and had cracked in an instant, causing his body to shatter like ice. Even now, not a single drop of blood came out of his body. Dark Apostle knew the identity of the Phoenix and they had already locked onto the Phoenix. Similarly, the people from Phoenix Valley were a little anxious now. Miss has already been exposed. Dark Temple will definitely take action. My lady has been exposed at this time, and it is for the sake of a small mortal sect. Is it worth it? It's still all because of that kid. The kid from Long family? Why is that? Didn't he know that it was impossible to be with that brat, Long family? Right now, the dragon race was already extinct. Even if he could enter the divine space, even if he could create a heaven and earth, so what? Is he really able to contend against the Xians? That kid still doesn't recognize reality. I think we should give him a reminder. Now is not the time to talk about this. Young Miss's identity is exposed. The people of Dark Temple will definitely take action. Send more people. We must protect young Miss well. The people of Phoenix Valley were worried. Right now, they did not know how many people from the Dark Temple had arrived. However, no matter what, they would protect him with their lives. Phoenix Valley was not easy to bully. Other than the people from Dark Temple and Phoenix Valley knowing that the god's disciples was killed by Phoenix, Xianming Abyss also knew that he was once again shocked in his heart. I never thought that the girl from Phoenix Valley would actually be this strong. Xianming Abyss's gaze tensed up. The waiter said, "Master, you said that the disciple of the divine space died at the hands of that girl?" "That's right. It's really surprising," Xianming Abyss said indifferently. The waiter said, "Then we." Xianming Abyss laughed coldly, and said, "Don't worry, no one can stop me. No matter how strong that girl is, it will be useless. Besides, the people from the Phoenix Valley wouldn't dare to interfere in the matters of my Xians, and she will have to face the Dark Temple and not us. Don't worry." Xianming Abyss was very clear that the people of Dark Temple were all in the god's material ground. Moreover, he wanted Long Fei's life. The people from the Phoenix Valley who were hiding in the shadows definitely would not dare to make a move. The Xians was someone he could not afford to offend. The dragon race being annihilated would be a warning to the entire ancient clan. Whoever dared to go against the Xians would be annihilated. The Hong clan elder jeered for a while. Seeing that no one dared to come out, his arrogance grew even stronger. "You don't dare to come out, right? All right. Since you want to protect them, then I will let them all die here today. I want to see how you're going to protect them." Humph. With a flick of his sleeve, he returned to his original position. At the same time, the alchemy competition continued. The phoenix took out a medicinal pellet and gave it to Wu Hua, then said with an indifferent tone, "You should be able to preserve your life, there won't be any danger." The 4 brothers of 5 elements bowed towards Phoenix in gratitude, saying, "Thank you, sister-in-law." Phoenix smiled and said, "These ancient family have always been so far above us and do not even think of the people here as human beings. In the following matches, they will definitely take action again. I'll go." While they were talking, Phoenix looked at Long Fei. These people were Long Fei's brothers. If they were injured, Long Fei would definitely feel terrible. Long Fei was unwell, and so was she. Thus, she was going on stage. This was the only way she could preserve the lives of these people. Otherwise, there was a possibility that someone would die on top of it. Bailey Tianhai frowned, and said, "In any case, we don't have any interest in the clan congress, so we might as well give up completely." Give up. Return to ancient antiquity. Bailey Tianhai couldn't think of any other way. Bailey Tianhai couldn't think of any other way. He was unable to protect the people on stage from getting injured, and he was also unable to prevent Phoenix from going on stage to expose himself. They had already entered the top 100, which was the best result in ancient antiquity. When they went back, they should be able to give the great clan elder an explanation. This way, he could protect his brothers and he could also protect the Phoenix. Then again, Long Fei did not care about the result of the match. He believed that Long Fei would support him in doing so. Everyone's gaze tensed up as they looked at Bailey Tianhai. Although Zhao Dehan was angry at the group of people from the divine space, he did not object when Bailey Tianhai said this, "I support him." "Me too." "Alright, then let's withdraw from the competition. There's no need to continue with this kind of competition." "Exactly. Let's go. Even if we are to withdraw, I am afraid it will not be that simple to leave this place." Zhao Dehan immediately said, "What? Do they still want to stop us?" Phoenix said, "Putting aside whether the ancient family S of the divine space will stop it, even Sword Sky Sect will not agree to it. If Sword Sky Sect agreed, Song Xianhu would also not agree. In short, it was now impossible for ancient antiquity to escape." Hearing the Phoenix's words, Bailey Tianhai also became silent. After half a minute, he slightly raised his eyes and said, "Then that's it. Wait for boss to wake up." Everyone looked at Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes were slightly closed, still in the midst of cultivation, and showed no signs of waking up. Phoenix stepped forward and looked at the alchemy competition that was still ongoing and said, "It's not possible to just blindly avoid battle, moreover. My darling has never submitted." Zhao Dehan said, "Right, boss has never been afraid when it comes to things, we cannot lose face for boss. I will definitely compete in strength. The next battle is a refining competition, I'll go up." "I don't believe it." Everyone's morale immediately rose. They did not want to retreat, and even more so, did not want to lose face for Long Fei. With today's cultivation, it was all given to them by Long Fei. If they were to submit now, how would they face Long Fei? Phoenix said, "None of you are my opponents." "I will be fine," Bailey Tianhai said, "if your identity is exposed." Without waiting for him to finish, Phoenix smiled and said, "My identity has already been exposed. Don't worry about that." Not only the people from Dark Temple, she also knew the people from Phoenix Valley. They were all here. The people of Dark Temple wanted to capture her, and the people of Phoenix Valley wanted her to return. However, she didn't want any of this. However, for Long Fei, she was willing to do anything, just because of the promises Long Fei made to her. Bringing along the 8 King Kong, the 108 Divine Spirit Phoenix Valley S would propose marriage. Bailey Tianhai secretly frowned. Just as they were discussing their next step. Boom! An explosive sound was emitted from the god's material ground. A alchemy grandmaster was suddenly sent flying, and his body was thrown into the air before heavily crashing onto the ground, dead. A soaring sword was embroidered on the chest of the deceased. A disciple of the Sword Sky Sect. Wn Jian, Lei Xiao, and the few clan elders all stood up, their eyes darkened as they stared at the dead disciple. Immediately, the voice of the 10,000 swords became heavy and asked, "Who is it? Who dares to touch my Sword Sky Sect's people? Who is it?" The 10,000 swords swept their eyes across the place, They did not sense any special chi from the god's material ground. Both of his eyes were filled with anger, and he glared at Aoqianzong the first. The gaze of the elders of Aoqianzong tightened as they immediately said, Sect Master WN, us, Aoqianzong, will definitely not do such a thing. WN Jian growled, you don't dare either. He's not a match either. After looking carefully, among these people, the one who had the highest cultivation was his sword Sky Sect's alchemy, and it was impossible for him to be killed by the people from these sects. Lei Xiao said in a low voice, Senior brother, seems like there is someone targeting our sword Sky Sect. The other sects are fine, only our sword Sky Sect's disciples. WN Jian said gloomily, go and check it out for me immediately, I want to see who is going to oppose my sword Sky Sect. Lei Xiao turned his body slightly, and disappeared into the crowd. Song Guqing said faintly, don't worry, the third elder said that this year, the number one sect in the mortal world will still be the sword Sky Sect. WN Jian's eyes lit up, and said, I will have to trouble senior brother to thank the third elder. With the devil tribe's third elder's words, the 10,000 swords felt a lot more at ease, but he still had to find out who was targeting the sword Sky Sect. The person who died just now was a disciple of the sword Sky Sect. It seems that someone does not wish for the sword Sky Sect to dominate the sect. Ha ha ha. Serves you right. He's making us feel bad, giving us the absolute order to kill him. Right now, even his scalp is numb. But who is helping us? On the side of the ancient antiquity, people were discussing. Bailey Tianhai said indifferently, do you want to help us talk about something else? But what we can be sure of is that the following matches will be especially dangerous. He then looked at Phoenix, whose eyes were somewhat cold. He now felt that the Phoenix was completely another person, a person that he was very unfamiliar with, a person who was truly a member of the upper echelons of the powerhouse. Half an hour later, the alchemy competition ended. Ancient antiquity elixir shattered, no result. Even when the sword Sky Sect's pills were broken, there was still no result. WN Jian was very unhappy about this, but he could do nothing about it. He could only investigate in secret and repeatedly warn his disciple to be careful in the next match. Next match, a refining competition. Disciples, please get ready. With a sweep of the 10,000 swords, they said indifferently, I thought that an accident happened during the alchemy competition. If anyone dares to target my sword Sky Sect again, humph, I will definitely teach him a lesson. A fierce sound was heard. Xianming Abyss smirked and laughed coldly, you sure have a big mouth. Phoenix stepped onto the god's material ground. As she walked to refining platform, the surrounding people started to discuss. Have a little kid fight. Is the ancient antiquity as cowardly as a dog? He's probably afraid. Ha ha ha. It was really useless for a little kid to come out to fight, but this little girl is so pretty, how could I give her a few more years? She's definitely prettier than Qian Xianbel when she grows up. Xianming Abyss's body stretched forward, and he smiled lightly, saying, you want her to fight? Seems like this ancient antiquity is at the end of his road. She really dares. Aren't you afraid that the people from the Dark Temple will also come out? Indeed. Phoenix stepped onto refining platform, and the Dark Temple's eyes lit up. The chance is here. The people of Phoenix Valley were even more worried. What does Miss want to do? Isn't she exposing herself completely? No way. Immediately send people to enter God's material ground. Yes, sir. The undercurrents surged. At the same time, the chi that Long Fei felt suddenly changed again, and became even stronger. Wow. This aura. Did a special person appear on the God's material ground? So powerful. The change in aura caused Long Fei to feel that the energy in the aura had become denser, and the fusion of the aura of the Heart of Kings and the God's material ground had become even faster. The change in aura caused Long Fei to feel that the energy in the aura had become denser, and the fusion of the aura of the Heart of Kings and the God's material ground had become even faster. The formation of the power of the Emperor was even stronger. Right now, Long Fei felt like he could touch it. This feeling made him feel very good inside. This power. It would be great if it were all under my control. Long Fei was excited. He was waiting for the formation of this power, and for the perfect fusion of the heart of kings and God's material ground's auras. On God's material ground, Phoenix landed. A voice transmitted into her sea of consciousness, "Miss, there are people from the Dark Temple here, quickly leave." Phoenix was not moved. It was as if she didn't hear him. Actually, she had already known that the Dark Apostle was on the stage. She had replaced the ancient antiquity as she went on stage, and those Dark Apostle would definitely follow her as well. Dark Apostle didn't belong to any sect in the mortal world, but it would be too easy for them to replace any other sects in the competition. However, even so, Phoenix did not cower. There was nothing she could do. She had to help Long Fei to protect ancient antiquity and to protect their lives. If she did not go out to fight, Bailey Tianhai and the others would definitely not be able to live. The difference between their cultivations and the disciples of the divine space was simply too great. "Miss, please leave quickly. Miss," the voice urged. Phoenix remained unmoved. It was also at this time. An ice-cold voice came from behind Phoenix. "It's such a pity that the little kid is so beautiful and dead. How about I bring you along to enter the divine space as my slave so I can spare your life?" God's disciples sent down by the ancient family. The corner of Phoenix's eyes shot a cold glance. She did not say anything, but her eyes turned cold. "Humph. You dare to ignore me? All right. I will make you kneel on the ground and tremble later." God's disciples' gaze tensed up as he released the God State's aura from his body. Empyrean God pressure began to emanate from every single one of them. Wn Jian stepped forward and said, "Are you done preparing?" "All right. The refining competition will now begin." As soon as he finished, the 200 refining platform S started to get busy. Phoenix stood motionlessly in front of the refining platform. This made the people of ancient antiquity look very anxious. Binga doesn't even know how to forge artifacts. Yeah, she doesn't know how to forge equipment, so it's useless even if she stands there. What should we do? Going up but unable to forge a weapon, that is the same as having no results. It doesn't matter if she has any results, look at that brat behind her. His body is covered with a divine light, and he is the one that ancient family sent to deal with her. Everyone was very worried. After all, Phoenix had never cultivated refining, so what could she do on stage? In the beginning, no one had thought of this, but she would only think of it when she went on stage. Zhao Dahan frowned and said, "Second brother, why don't I go down first?" Bailey Tianhai shook her head and said, "Don't underestimate sister-in-law, she is stronger than any of us. Although she has never trained in refining techniques, she was also present when Boss was teaching us these things. Everyone's training is better." Her. Is eldest sister-in-law that powerful? Everyone was shocked. Phoenix rarely displayed her strength in front of them, but every time she attacked, it was as if she was crushing everything in her path, so powerful that no one could stop her. Although she had never trained in refining techniques, she had seen the entire process that Long Fei had taught them. Long Quang once said something. Phoenix could break through even without cultivating. Her physique, her blood vein, her talents were all talents that hadn't appeared in the Phoenix race for billions of years. Her ability to learn may be beyond all. He was simply a monstrous existence. Bailey Tianhai was not worried that the Phoenix would not know how to refine artifacts. He was worried that the Phoenix would be injured. 3 of them were dressed in black and their gazes were fixated on Phoenix. Logically speaking, ancient family would only send one disciple to deal with the Phoenix, the God's disciples that was behind the Phoenix, but who are those people? Bailey Tianhai secretly frowned. He turned and looked at Long Fei, his heart worried. Eldest sister-in-law is making her move. Zhao Dahan suddenly shouted, his eyes flashing with light. Phoenix waved her right hand. Boom. He immediately set ablaze, and this flame was a rainbow of colors. Her technique, her movements, were exactly the same as the ancient alchemy. However, the Phoenix's eyes were closed, and her mind was still constantly thinking about the scene where Long Fei taught the ancient alchemy, the power of heaven and earth. The power of nature. Refining. Holy source, power source, weapon. She kept thinking in her mind. These things were also interweaving continuously, just like a chaotic spider web world, trying to find the shortest way to pass through. Suddenly, Phoenix's eyes opened wide and they shone with a bright light. She said, "I got it." All of a sudden, it was as though he had been enlightened. His movements began to speed up. "Isn't this the ancient alchemy that we're cultivating? That's not right. It's different. Look at her details, look at the flames, her skilled movements. This is much better than what we are training in." As expected, elder sister-in-law is really powerful. It's opening more and more. Can refining weapons do this? They were shocked. Not only was her artifact forging technique fast, the refining force released from her body was also getting stronger and stronger. The instrument in her hand was rapidly taking shape. It was also at this time. Buzz. In Phoenix's artifact forging world, an external force tore open a hole and rushed in. And at this moment, that power turned into a person. Is the god's disciples behind Phoenix? "Humph. Little beauty, I didn't expect that you would have such a good weapon. How is it? Training with me here?" God's man revealed a lustful look, looking at Phoenix up and down with an evil smile. "I'm indeed a little small, but I like people like you." Ha ha ha. Phoenix's forehead turned sinister as she coldly said, "I'll give you 1 second of time to scram." God's man laughed lewdly. "I have already entered. I am going to teach you how to change from a little girl to a little girl." Not waiting for him to finish. Buzz. Phoenix's eyes emitted a bright light. The light enveloped God's man's idea and instantly sucked it into the idea's body. The man's eyes suddenly narrowed. His body started to tremble rapidly. It was as though a surge of energy was stuck in his throat, causing his body to convulse non-stop. In just a second, the God's man's ideas that were smithing came crashing down. Not only that, in the real world, his real body was still standing in the same spot, blood gushing out from his eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Blood from the 7 orifices. Blood from the 7 orifices. His eyes narrowed and he stood rooted to the spot as though a pillar. He didn't move at all. The ancient family all stood up and stared at the god's disciples, and all of their eyes tensed up. What happened? What's going on? His aura is completely gone. He's dead. How did he die? The old faces turned ugly. They had always been paying attention to the auras around them, as well as the god's disciples'. But still dead. Furthermore, they were bleeding from all 7 orifices of their heads due to the tragic state of death. They did not even know where this strength had come from. Their hearts sank. He felt as if his old face had been ruthlessly slapped. It was extremely uncomfortable. "Who is it?" One of the elderly god roared, his voice exploding in the air above the god's material ground, causing everyone around to tremble. They all looked at him. The crowd was also silent, not a single sound could be heard. The phoenix controlled the flames as the device began to take shape at a rapid pace. The transcendent divine might elder stared at the phoenix, but he couldn't see anything. Not only could he not see the phoenix's cultivation, he also couldn't see it clearly. Ha ha ha. Sister-in-law is so mighty. How did he do it? He really is too powerful. Zhao Dahan could not help but become excited. Brothers of 5 Elements was also excited. Looking at the phoenix calmly, she acted as if she did not see the death of the god's disciples behind her. This was a realm they could not surpass. At the same time, on the other side, the 3 black-clothed men had yet to make a move or forge artifacts. There were another 3 people like them who had been standing at the same place all this time. It was the same. The 6 of them were completely motionless. They continued until the artifact forging came to an end. The phoenix's aura retracted, the flames on his palm retracted, and he softly said, "The ancient alchemy is truly profound." He spoke softly. A dagger shining with divine light quietly floated in his hand, attracting the attention of countless people. Holy artifact. The divine light shrouds everything. This must be a holy artifact. Wow, isn't this too awesome? Awesome. Is this girl really that amazing? The faces of the old god and the others all became ugly. Other than them, the faces of the people from Sword Sky Sect were ugly too. The 10,000 Swords said, "Is the divine space person useful or not? You can't even handle a little girl, isn't that a bit too terrible?" He was extremely dissatisfied with the disciples sent by the ancient family. Song Guqing said indifferently, "This little girl is not simple." The center of the 10,000 Swords frowned, and said, "Senior brother, how is this little girl not so simple? Why can't I tell? It's just that my cultivation is so low and my aura is so weak, I really can't tell at all." Song Guqing said, "It's really because of this that she is not simple. I now suspect that the death of the two gods' disciples was caused by her." What? The center of the 10,000 Swords tightened, easily killing the gods' disciples. How strong was that? "Senior brother, then Wan Jian asked. Song Guqing understood the meaning behind his words, and said, "Rest assured, the things that the third elder promised are not impossible. These ancient family disciples are all a bunch of pustules. Just because they can't deal with them doesn't mean that devil tribe can't." Song Guqing was very confident in his devil tribe. He believed in the strength of the third elder even more. Even if we can't win in the end, when the third elder takes action, they won't be able to leave this place, Song Guqing said indifferently. Hearing his words, the 10,000 Swords became even more at ease. At this moment, boom! A loud sound erupted from the martial ground. A refiner disciple was directly blown away. Bam! He landed heavily on the ground, black blood gushing out from his mouth. His body twitched a few times and then lost all signs of life. Dead. An elder of the Sword Sky Sect immediately said, "Sect Master, it's a disciple of our Sword Sky Sect." The eyes of the 10,000 Swords turned sinister as they charged forward. What? In that instant, his Emperor Swordsman's aura burst out, quickly landing beside the dead Sword Sky Sect disciple and checking his injuries. "All my internal organs are shattered. Such tyrannical power. Who is it?" A furious roar. The 10,000 Swords could no longer resist. His Sword Sky Sect had always dominated the mortal world's sects for hundreds of years, so who would dare to compete against him? Who would dare to fight against him? No one who provoked his Sword Sky Sect had ever lived in this world before, but now, the sudden death of two disciples caused him to be extremely furious. It had always been him, the Sword Sky Sect, bullying others, but he had never been bullied before. Furthermore, with his back against the Devil Tribe, his Sword Sky Sect was even more powerful. Wan Jian swept his gaze across them and said angrily, "You dare attack my Sword Sky Sect, you better consider your own strength, don't get caught by me, otherwise I will definitely exterminate your clan." Boom. His voice was filled with killing intent. Xianming Abyss coldly snorted as he slowly stood up and said, "Sect Master Wan sure has a big mouth." The 10,000 Swords moved slightly, flying up into the air, looking at Xianming Abyss. They suppressed their anger and said, "Leader Xian, two disciples suddenly died. If this kind of despicable and sinister villain was discovered by you, you would also be so angry." Xianming Abyss laughed coldly, and said, "This is called not being good at martial arts, and you've already started saying, anything can happen in this martial arts arena. A dead person is a very normal thing. The disciples of the other sects don't see you so angry, but your own people are already angry after dying. Sect head Wan, you seem like you can't afford to lose." The center of the 10,000 Swords tightened. "Sect Master Xian, what do you mean?" Xianming Abyss looked at the sky and said, "I think it's about time to change the rankings of the sects." Wan Jian's eyes darkened, he stared straight at Xianming Abyss, his fists were clenched tightly, and his teeth were chomping. He wanted to get angry, but a voice transmission sounded out in his mind. "Don't be rash." Wan Jian looked at senior brother on his seat and waved his sleeves. He landed back on his seat. Song Guqing said, "Don't bother with the people from the Xians." Wan Jian said, "Senior brother, he is trying to make a move on my Sword Sky Sect." "Elder Lin, how are Dark God Tribe's results in these two matches?" An elder immediately said, "First in alchemy, second in artifact forging." The center of the 10,000 Swords tightened. "Seems like the Dark God Tribe wants to replace my Sword Sky Sect. Senior brother, I know that the power of the Xians is enormous and that we cannot offend him. This is the mortal world, and there are our rules here. All these years, no one has ever dared to ride on top of our sword sky sect's head to shit and pee. I can't take this lying down. Wen was very unconvinced. He was not convinced because he did not understand Shen's at all. They had no idea how powerful the Shen's was. Song Guqing had stayed in the divine space before, so he knew what the Shen's meant. Song Guqing patted Wen's shoulder, and said, "Don't even mention peeing, even if I told you to eat your asterisk tea, you would still have to eat it. No one in the Shen's can afford to offend him." Wen was startled, and said, "Even the devil tribe cannot afford to offend him." Song Guqing said, "I can't afford to offend him." The 10,000 swords only knew that the Shen's was strong, but he did not know that the Shen's was actually strong to the point where even senior brother, who had a solid foothold in the devil tribe, could not afford to offend him. The 10,000 swords only knew that the Shen's was strong, but he did not know that the Shen's was actually strong to the point where even senior brother, who had a solid foothold in the devil tribe, could not afford to offend him. How strong was this? He couldn't even offend the devil tribe. Instantly, the 10,000 swords felt a chill in their hearts. If Dark God tribe really wants to use Sword Sky Sect as a weapon, then Sword Sky Sect cannot defend against it at all. At that time, the top-ranked sect couldn't even enter one of the top 100 sects, which was too big of a blow to the Sword Sky Sect. With his ranking dropped, the 10,000 swords knew what this meant. And then, Wen said, "Senior brother, what should we do now?" Song Guqing said, "Surrender. Do whatever he tells you to do, you must not hesitate in the slightest." Wen's eyebrows tightened. "Is there no other way?" Song Guqing said, "If you want to protect Sword Sky Sect, you better do it this way. If you really want to save Sword Sky Sect, then do it this way." In the mortal world, there might not be many people who knew about the Shen's. After all, the divine space was the place where the center of gravity of the Shen's was set up and controlled. There weren't many people from the Shen's in the mortal world. Even the universal realm had more people than the Shen's here. Hearing Song Guqing's words, the 10,000 swords felt their hearts tremble, as they realized the seriousness of the situation. His gaze turned towards the Dark God tribe. The 10,000 swords fell silent for a moment. Then, with a slight movement of their bodies, they disappeared from the crowd. Not long later, he appeared in front of Dark God tribe Shen Ming Abyss. 10 minutes later, the 10,000 swords returned to Sword Sky Sect. At this moment, Wen was covered in cold sweat as his body trembled. His face was pale, without a single trace of blood. Song Guqing looked at him and said, "Have you finished?" Wen swallowed hard and said, Talk, it's all settled." His voice trembled with fear. Song Guqing asked, "What's the result?" Wen swallowed his saliva and said, "In the end, yes, be Shen Ming Abyss's dog." Song Guqing's pupils tightened. One of the clan elders angrily said, "What does his Dark God tribe count as, for us to be his dogs?" "Master, we can't agree to this. This is too embarrassing." "That's right, so what if the Shen's is strong? I don't believe that they can cover the sky with one hand. They're too arrogant. And what is that Shen Ming Abyss fellow? For the dignified number 1 sect to become Shen Ming Abyss's dog. Not the Shen's, but Shen Ming Abyss's dog, this was even more embarrassing. Who in Sword Sky Sect could agree to that? They were used to being so haughty. How could they allow others to ride on their heads? Song Guqing looked at the 10,000 swords, and said, "You agree?" Wen let out a heavy breath, and said, "I have no choice. If I don't agree, all of the people from the Sword Sky Sect who came here today will die, and I was there just now." "Senior brother, how strong exactly is that Shen Ming Abyss? I can't even raise my head in front of him, and the aura he gives off seems to be able to crush me. Is the Shen's really that strong in the divine space?" He did not understand. How could such a powerful person be in the mortal world? Why would they participate in the clan congress here? What kind of world was the divine space exactly? Song Guqing said solemnly, "Shen's is the overlord of ancient world. How strong do you think he is? Being a dog for Shen Ming Abyss is a bit too much, but this way at least you can protect the Sword Sky Sect and all of their lives." Otherwise, it would be just as he said, you all might end up dying here. Song Guqing said indifferently, other than these, did they not explain anything else? Wn Jian said, let me give up on the rest of the competition. He said that when you're a dog, you should be an obedient dog. There's more. He said that we don't need to care about the matters of the ancient antiquity, he will settle it. Song Guqing nodded his head, then let him settle it. Since he said it like that, then he should have long planned everything out. Just do as he says. Wn Jian asked, senior brother, we were just left like this. He did not continue. He was unwilling in his heart. He was the sect master of the Sword Sky sect, and now he was going to be a dog. He was extremely unhappy. He wanted to grab onto Devil Tribe's life-saving straw, but from Song Guqing's mouth, he knew that this straw was completely useless. Wn Jian wasn't willing to accept this outcome, and so were the other elders by his side. Song Guqing smiled faintly and said, is your life more important, or is your honor more important? Everyone fell silent. In front of his life, everything was as intangible as the floating clouds. Song Guqing laughed once again. Being a dog for Xians, it's not shameful. Also, this is only temporary. After the competition for the God of Boundary is over, if Emperor Xian hasn't become a God of Boundary and if Patriarch Demon Sealing has become a God of Boundary, then it would be the time when his Xians is destroyed. For the time being, I guess I'll have to suffer a little. Wn Jian looked at God's material ground, nodded slowly, and said, I understand. Notify the others. For the rest of the competition, Sword Sky sect has given up. Although they were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. Master, will Sword Sky sect really listen to you? The waiter asked in a low voice. Xianming Abyss laughed, I do not need any disobedient dogs here. If they do not, then I will just die on the martial grounds. The waitress asked, what if they are really obedient? The corner of Xianming Abyss's mouth hooked into a cold smile, and he said, if you're so obedient, then you'll just be my cannon fodder. I'm guessing that no one in the Sword Sky sect will be able to leave today. To be a dog, then you should have the awareness to be a dog. Go and work for me at any time. Chenji. Xianming Abyss laughed coldly. What did the Sword Sky sect count for? What did the realm of Emperor Swordsman of 10,000 swords count as? In Xianming Abyss's eyes, he was nothing more than cannon fodder. His life was like an ant, and he still wanted to be a living dog. Dream on. The waiter's gaze tensed up, he looked at the martial ground and said, Master, then should we take action against ancient antiquity? Xianming Abyss said, there's no rush, now that the people of Dark Temple and Phoenix Valley are challenging each other, we do not need to get involved, my goal is him. The look in his eyes was firm. Looking at Long Fei who was sitting cross-legged on the ancient antiquities seat. From the moment he entered the god's material ground, Long Fei had been meditating and cultivating, which made him very puzzled. What the hell is he doing? Temporarily hugging each other? Even if I can become a little stronger, what's the use? He's going to die soon. Xianming Abyss said, it's better if you become stronger, the stronger you become, the more things I can obtain. Ha ha ha. Just a little more. Just a little more. Long Fei started to become nervous, beads of perspiration formed on his forehead, the energy absorbed by the Heart of Kings was almost full. He felt that the fusion of the auras of the Heart of Kings and God's material ground was about to come out. This feeling made his blood boil and made him extremely nervous. It's almost done. The third match, draw the formation. The third match, draw the formation. Disciples of the various sects, please get into position. The 10,000 swords swept out with their sleeves. Immediately, the array formation once again appeared on the god's material ground. Many sect disciples began to enter one by one. Wn Jian returned to his position in the Sword Sky sect. An elder asked, Sovereign, are we really giving up the competition? Wn Jian nodded and said, I give up. The elders all sighed softly, but there was nothing they could do about it. Wn Jian was also displeased, but he could only bear with it. It was better to give up than to die. Strange, why didn't Sword Sky sect send any disciples? Could it be that I'm scared to death? It's possible. However, Who was it that dealt with the Sword Sky sect? With Sword Sky sect strength, the other sects are basically unable to contend against him. Could he be a powerhouse of the divine space? That's not right. Aren't those ancient family people targeting the ancient antiquity? How strange. Why care so much? His Sword Sky sect giving up the competition will benefit us even more. After his god's extreme palace is killed, his ranking will advance by a few more ranks. Many sects were discussing. However, at this time, not many people were willing to think about this. The competition was more important. Phoenix took a step forward and said, "Let me go up." Finished. She then walked towards the god's material ground. Unlike the other sect disciples who had made their entrance, the Phoenixes had all taken steps and walked into the martial arena step by step. Another one? What happened to Miss? What is she trying to do? Who cares about such a sect? I don't know what she wants. What's so good about guarding a sect in the mortal world? For that kid. If we knew earlier, we would have listened to the patriarch and crippled that brat. People from the dragon race should just avoid them, and should not let young Miss come into contact with people from the Long family. I knew it all, but she just had to meet someone from the Long family. Can the Long family still make a comeback? It's impossible. Let's not talk about that now. Miss will go out, the people from Dark Temple will definitely come out, we have to go down. The 3 people who were refining just now had suffered internal injuries. If we send another 3 people down, I'm afraid. Don't be so long-winded, are our lives more important or Mrs.? The people who had refined them earlier and the people from the Dark Temple did not move, but in reality, they were using idea to compete with each other. The people of the Phoenix Valley blocked the people of the Dark Temple, but they suffered from internal injuries. Now that Phoenix had entered the arena once again, the people from Dark Temple would definitely enter as well. They did not have a choice. In order to protect Phoenix, they had to enter the arena. They're coming in. 3 more. Let our people enter as well. Seeing the Dark Temple's people enter, the Phoenix Valley's people also entered. The 6 of them surrounded the Phoenix in a semicircle. At the same time, an old man once again sent a sound transmission into Phoenix's sea of consciousness. "Miss, if we leave this place, the people from Dark Temple are already here. The Patriarch told you to go back. If you want to protect ancient antiquity, we can do it." No matter what he said, Phoenix did not reply. She quietly stood in front of the array formation stage with her eyes closed, as she recalled the scene of Long Fei teaching the ancient engraving formation in her mind. In her mind, she simulated it over and over again. At the same time, standing behind her was also a disciple of the. He coldly stared at the back of Phoenix with killing intent in his eyes. His right hand gently flipped and a few items appeared in his palm. Divine light shrouded the area. A thick wave of energy spread out. The materials used to inscribe the array were many times more expensive than the ones used on the array stage. These were the energy crystals found in the divine space. The power of the formation that was created was extremely strong. Wn Jian calmly said, "Let the competition begin." As soon as he finished, the disciples on the martial field began to get busy. Xianming Abyss looked at the martial grounds, and said indifferently, "It looks like the people from Phoenix Valley and the people from Dark Temple are going to fight. After one battle after another, both sides will be exhausted. Now it's up to who brings the more people. That side can win." Xianming Abyss was also unsure. However, this was not what he was worried about. All of his attention was on Long Fei. He was getting a little impatient. The competition of inscriptions began. The god's disciples quickly formed a formation, and the few high-grade energy crystals in his hands fused into the formation, and in an instant, he was surrounded by shining swords. The divine sword formation. In just half a minute, the array was formed. The corner of God's disciples' mouth lifted slightly, and said, "A little girl dares to show off. Now it's your little life." Buzz. A sword light flashed. Boom. A sword pierced through the void. Space distorted and appeared at the back of Phoenix's head in an instant. God's disciples laughed proudly. "Go to hell." Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. Zhao Dahan immediately shouted out, "Sis, be careful." Buzz. The sword stabbed down. Phoenix ignored him. She raised her right hand and instantly entered into the state of the array. The power of the array also erupted from her body. Boom. With a single leap, he blocked that long sword. It was as if the sword had stabbed into a strength stripes, causing it to be unable to advance even a single inch. On the other hand, the phoenix acted as if nothing had happened, and started to use the ancient engraving formation to quickly form the array. The power of the array on her body also became stronger and stronger. God's disciples' pupils tightened and his eyes turned sinister. A drop of spirit blood's blood floated above his palm. Ah! Heartbreak sword. The sword lights in the sword formation quickly gathered together, forming a crimson long sword. The long sword was at least 10 meters long, and it stabbed into the sky. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck down. The long sword pierced towards the top of Phoenix's head, extremely fast. There was no way to block it. "I don't believe that my God's array is unable to deal with you." God's disciples made a fierce noise as all his profound chi flowed into the array. The red sword was even more powerful. It was like a red bolt of lightning striking towards the Phoenix. Phoenix completely ignored him as she continued carving the array. Just as the red broadsword was about to pierce her head, she suddenly raised her eyes. Buzz. The power of the formation shot into the sky. The red sword suddenly changed its trajectory, and pierced through God's disciples' throat. Bam! Crack! Blood gushed out as his entire body was nailed to a tree a few hundred meters away. His eyes stared intently at Phoenix as fresh blood spewed out of his mouth. Dead. Another one died. The elderly people who had come down from the divine space stood up abruptly. One of the elders stared fixedly at Phoenix before speaking with a deep voice, "I know where the power is coming from." Everyone looked at him. The old man moved through the air and landed directly on top of the Phoenix's head. He opened his hand and grabbed at the Phoenix like a claw. Angry, "Who the hell are you? Show your true form." The sharp claw pierced down. Phoenix calmly said, "The formation has been completed." Buzz. The sharp claws made contact with the formation created by the Phoenix, and his arm instantly turned into smithereens. There was no chance for him to resist. The moment he touched the power of the array, his fingers began to turn into fine powder, extending all the way until his entire arm was finished. There was no chance for him to resist. The moment he touched the power of the array, his fingers began to turn into fine powder, extending all the way until his entire arm was finished. He couldn't resist. It was useless to consume the pill. Having lost one of his arms, the old man's body began to tremble. He almost lost his balance in the air and fell to the ground. He did not dare to attack again. He moved his body and returned to his original position. His legs went soft and he fell to the ground. A few elderly Empyrean god experts stepped forward to support him. Their expressions darkened as they looked at his blooded shoulder. An elderly deity took a step forward, his eyes locked onto Phoenix. With a heavy voice, he asked, "Just who are you?" Phoenix ignored him. He didn't even look at it. The old man shouted back angrily, "I'm asking you a question. Who are you?" Phoenix still did not give him a glance as she walked back to the position of ancient antiquity by herself. Twice, he had completely ignored Ning's words. This caused the Empyrean god to feel utterly humiliated. In this mortal world, they were gods that stood high above others. No one dared to ignore them like this, because this was an insult to them. His embarrassment turned into anger. The power of the Empyrean god energy within his body surged. He directly exploded with force. It formed a huge pressure above the heads of the people of ancient antiquity. The old man waved his right hand. A square seal appeared in his palm. It was pitch black in color and there was a dense divine light on it. Crackling lightning flashed. The heavenly god old man moved his right hand and the holy source activated its seal. The seal pierced through the thick pressure. The elder's voice was cold as he said, "Are you going to say? If you don't say it, I will kill all of them immediately." As soon as his voice faded, rumble, rumble, rumble. In the midst of the thick suppression, There was an unceasing explosion of powerful thunder, and lightning also exploded out with a crackling sound. As long as the old idea moved, Bailey Tianhai and the rest would probably be smashed into meat paste. Heavenly Thunder Seal. An old man from the Phoenix Valley frowned slightly. This seal can release the power of heavenly lightning. Even ordinary heavenly god realm powerhouse can't withstand it, let alone these mortals. I can't believe you actually took out a 5th grade deity tier magical equipment. Elder, will the young miss be alright? Miss hasn't returned to her seat yet. If the heavenly lightning strikes, she should be fine. I'm just afraid. Before he could finish, Phoenix suddenly stopped in her tracks and turned to look at the elderly god of heaven. The old man's eyes grew sinister as he asked, "Can you tell me who you are now?" Phoenix's eyes narrowed slightly. A cold light exploded. The old man's body suddenly trembled, as though his entire body was about to be frozen. His mind was covered in a thick layer of frost. His entire body was shaking uncontrollably. He finally understood why the body of this refiner disciple had shattered like ice. As long as a force struck his body, he would probably do the same. Phoenix had completely changed into another person. The aura around her body was completely different. Even those elderly Empyrean god who had been training for thousands of years couldn't withstand the crushing pressure caused by her aura when they saw her gaze. Phoenix spoke indifferently. "Didn't I teach you all a lesson just now?" A simple sentence. It was filled with a murderous intent. This was the current Phoenix. The old man didn't even dare to breathe, not to mention activating the heavenly lightning strike. Right now, he could only tremble uncontrollably and not be able to say a single word. Phoenix's voice rang out once more. "Is that not enough?" At this moment, the old man was bleeding profusely from the corner of his mouth. His face was extremely pale, and his body was trembling even more vigorously. Blood continued to pour out of his mouth. He was unable to speak and could only shake his head. He used all his strength to say, "Enough. Enough. Enough, enough." Phoenix coldly said, "If you dare to come out and seek death again, I will grant all of you your wish." As soon as he finished, Phoenix raised her hand and pressed down. Rumble. The thick pressure above ancient antiquities had immediately shattered, and the heavenly thunder seal instantly exploded as well. Phoenix walked forward step by step. She was no different from a 13 or 14-year-old girl. She was a bit beautiful and a bit pure. It was impossible to tell that she had any killing intent. At this moment, everyone was staring at her. The entire audience was silent. No one said anything. Because he was shocked. An unimaginable shock. A 13-year-old little girl actually dared to trample God's powerhouse. Furthermore, from her eyes, it could be seen that she did not put these ancient family S in her eyes at all, and completely despised them. How fierce was this? When Phoenix returned to her seat on the ancient antiquity, everyone took a deep breath. Who is she? Who is this girl? Damn, isn't this too fierce? I can't even imagine that she actually doesn't even put the powerhouse of the divine space in her eyes. Could she be more ferocious than those ancient family S? Oh my god, I feel like those divine powerhouse are just like ants in her eyes. What kind of monster is the ancient antiquity exactly? She's already fought 2 matches consecutively. Everyone started to look at the ancient antiquity again. Sword Sky Sect didn't even care about the fact that he was giving up, that Phoenix was going on the stage, and that ancient antiquity seemed to be crushing everything in his path. What happened to this sect? They didn't know, but Xianming Abyss did. His eyes slightly narrowed as he stared at the Phoenix and muttered, "I didn't expect this girl to become so strong." Mental control, the frozen heart art, and the might of her Phoenix King really gave me a fright. An incredible person appeared in the Phoenix Valley. While they were talking, Xianming Abyss's eyes flashed with a cold light. The waiter asked, "Master, will she protect ancient antiquity?" The corner of Xianming Abyss's mouth lifted slightly, and said, "Even if her talent is astonishing, and she's the holy maiden of the Phoenix Valley, but she knows very well that the Xians cannot be provoked, and if she were to provoke my Xians, I am afraid she will not be able to bear the consequences." Even if she dares to attack us, it's useless. Xianming Abyss looked behind him. Others might not be able to see, but he could clearly see a tall and sturdy figure wearing a black cloak standing behind him. With him here, Xianming Abyss was not worried at all. Xianming Abyss laughed. Even if there were 2 of these people, I would not put them in my eyes. That's all. There are still people from the Phoenix Valley here, they should know what to do. He wasn't worried at all that Phoenix would protect Long Fei. Because, with the Phoenix Valley behind Phoenix, if she made a move, it would mean that the Phoenix Valley would make a move. Xianming Abyss was very clear of all of this. Phoenix's domination of the entire arena did not affect him in the slightest. What he wanted was Long Fei's head and strength. As for the Phoenix, if she dared to make a move, then Xians would find a reason to go berserk. There was only one more reason to annihilate Phoenix Valley. Phoenix did not dare to make a move. Xianming Abyss had calculated his gains and losses very clearly. Xianming Abyss had calculated his gains and losses very clearly. The entire God's material ground was also under his control. He wasn't worried at all. Miss has become stronger. Miss has really changed in the past few months. Did the Phoenix King blood on her body start to show its effects? If the Patriarch knew, he would definitely be very happy. When the elders from the Phoenix Valley saw the Phoenix crushing the elderly god of heaven, they nearly broke down in tears. The Phoenix's strength would determine the fate of the Phoenix Valley. She herself did not know, but everyone in the Phoenix Valley knew that she was everything in the entire Phoenix Valley. She could control the fate of the entire Phoenix Valley. Seeing that she had gotten stronger, they were extremely excited in their hearts. However, the Phoenix's display of strength was happening under the watch of Dark Apostle and the others. When the Phoenix becomes stronger, the Phoenix King blood's strength becomes more and more important. In other words, the people of Dark Temple would use any means at their disposal to obtain the Phoenix. Don't be happy, Miss becoming strong is what the Dark Temple likes to see the most. If Miss were to go on stage again, I'm afraid. The old man frowned and started to worry. The people of Dark Temple would definitely go crazy. If they couldn't stop it, Phoenix would definitely be injured. If she was caught, then that was it. No way. I'm going to talk to Miss while they were talking. The elder disappeared from sight in an instant. The next second, the old man appeared in front of everyone in ancient antiquity. Zhao Dahan's gaze tensed up as he immediately entered into battle mode. Clenching both of his fists tightly, he used his powerful defensive strength to protect Phoenix, who was at his side. Bailey Tianhai also became nervous, and asked, "Who are you?" Brothers of 5 Elements also instantly entered a battle state, and the power of the 5 Elements quickly condensed. Phoenix indifferently said in a respectful tone, "Fourth Grandpa." "Fourth Grandpa?" Zhao Dahan was startled. Everyone was also stunned. The old man said in a deep voice, "You still know that I'm your 4th grandfather? Why don't you listen to what I'm saying? All right, come with me now. Your aunt has already given the order for you to go back." While they were talking, he stepped forward and tried to hold Phoenix's hand. However, Phoenix took a step back and dodged. She said, "Fourth Grandpa, I still don't want to leave." The old man's forehead sank as he said, "How long are you going to keep this going for? Do you know how dangerous you are? Do you know how many people are here in Dark Temple? Do you know that the Xians has always wanted to annihilate the Phoenix clan? If you continue to be like this, even if you aren't captured by the Dark Temple, you will still offend the Xians." His voice was very heavy. Phoenix lowered her head slightly. The elder took another step forward and said, "Follow me." Phoenix took another step back and dodged once more. She looked at Long Fei with the corner of her eyes. The old man also looked at Long Fei, who was seated cross-legged. Looking at him, the old man's eyes burned with anger, and he said, "The dragon race has been annihilated. It has already been removed from the divine space. Don't you understand? The brat you're protecting can't do anything at all, and it's impossible to fight against the Xians. Now come with me." The old man's tone was commanding. His eyes were filled with contempt for Long Fei. It wasn't contempt, but contempt. It was really because the Phoenix was here. Otherwise, He would not be able to resist and make his move against Long Fei. Because Long Fei was simply unworthy of possessing the Phoenix. Long Fei would only harm Phoenix. It would only put the Phoenix Valley in dire straits. The dragon race had been annihilated and could not rise to prominence. In the current divine space, whoever helped the dragon race would be annihilated by the Xians. The Xians had always wanted to deal with the Phoenix Valley, it was just that the Phoenix Valley had been cautious for these past few years, and their relationship with the dragon race would be cut off as well. If the Xians found out about Long Fei now, the consequences would be unimaginable. Phoenix gently shook her head and said, I still don't want to leave yet. When the time comes, I will leave by myself. Fourth Grandpa, you go back and tell Auntie that I will return, but now The elder's aura surged as he said, I can't allow you to continue this nonsense. Follow me immediately. After saying that, he strode towards Phoenix. Phoenix retreated. Zhao Dahan went up to block it. Brothers of 5 Elements also went up. Zhao Dahan said straightforwardly, I don't care who you are, be it eldest sis's 4th grandpa or 5th grandfather, I just know that eldest sis isn't willing to leave with you. If you dare touch her, I won't forgive you. Brothers of 5 Elements' power of life secretly surged. The elder growled, just you mortals? Zhao Dahan was not in a good mood as he said, right, just us mortals, what's wrong? The old man's eyes blazed with fury, and his aura instantly transformed into a pressure that crushed out toward the crowd. Zhao Dahan was also not someone to be trifled with. The power of life of the outer world stone was released, forming a thick layer of defense. However, in front of the old man's aura, his defenses were useless and directly crushed. Brothers of 5 Elements also stepped forward and released the power of the 5 Elements. The strength of 5 people was just barely enough to resist. However, the 5 people's faces were pale as they struggled to hold on. The difference in their levels was too great. Just you guys. Humph. To put it harshly, you are just a bunch of trash. If it wasn't for her protecting you, do you think you would still be alive until now? You call her sister-in-law, but can you protect her? There are many people in this dojo who want her life. Any one of them can kill all of you. Can you protect her? If you can't, then move to the side. The old man was very domineering. He had come here to bring Phoenix away. He had no time left. Now that the dark energy was approaching them, if they did not bring the Phoenix with them, they really would not be able to leave. Zhao Dahan and the others were left speechless. They looked at the Phoenix. He couldn't say a word. They had also seen the Phoenix's cultivation, and it was just as the old man had said, the Phoenix had always been protecting them. Without the Phoenix, it was possible that Wu Shui and Wu Tu would already be dead. Each and every one of them tightly clenched their fists as they felt extremely unresigned in their hearts. However, this was a world that focused on strength. If you were weak, you had no right to speak. They lowered their heads in silence. The elder's face softened as he spoke, you can't protect her. I can protect her. If you don't want to see her captured or killed here, then get out of the way. No way. Bailey Tianhai suddenly shouted, we are not strong enough to protect sister-in-law, but as long as eldest sister-in-law does not want to leave, we will not let you take her away. We are not strong, but we can fight with our lives on the line for her. If you bring them along, we will resist you with our lives on the line. Zhao Dahan also raised his head and said, second brother is right, eldest sister-in-law is eldest brother is currently in closed-door cultivation, you cannot take her away. The old man's eyes grew sinister as he said solemnly, all of you have great talent. I don't know why I had to follow that bane of the Long family, but if you end up with him, you will all die. Since you won't give up, then don't blame me for being impolite. The old man wanted to forcefully take Phoenix away. The aura on his body suddenly intensified. It was at this moment. A voice came from the back of the crowd. Who's being impolite? Who's being impolite? Who's being impolite? His voice sank. Everyone's gaze turned cold and shone with a bright light. The voice was too familiar to them. Phoenix's eyes lit up, she suddenly turned around and looked behind her, her face full of excitement, directly calling out cordially, my darling. After she finished speaking, she directly went forward and took Long Fei's arm, just like a blissful little woman. Boss. Big brother. Peak owner. Everyone looked at Long Fei behind them. At this moment, Long Fei had just stood up and looked at the old man from Phoenix Valley. His closed-door cultivation was over. The energy of the Heart of Kings was filled. The aura released from the Heart of Kings and God's material ground also fused successfully. The aura on his body was a little different now. However, when he saw Phoenix hold Long Fei's arm and call out the 4 words "my darling," the old man's pupils violently sunk. Her gloomy and cold eyes immediately locked onto Long Fei, and her voice revealed some dignity. "You are Long Fei?" Long Fei said, "That's right, I am Long Fei." "Are you the one that forcefully brought the girl along?" The old man shouted, "You are too kind." Long Fei replied, "I've never been taught since I was young, so I'm just a little impudent." "What's wrong?" "Humph." The elder snorted, "Kid, let her go. We no longer have any connections and I will spare you." Long Fei said, "I have never hated people threatening me. I don't need anyone to agree to what I'm doing." Then, Long Fei asked the Phoenix, "Girl, are you willing to not have any contact with me?" Phoenix shook her head. She looked at the old man and said, "Fourth Grandpa, you can go back. I can take care of myself. When the time comes, I will definitely go back." Long Fei smiled slightly and said, "Did you hear that? She doesn't want to go with you." The old man was enraged. At the same time, he sensed the surrounding enormous dark auras approaching him and heavily said, "Miss, you have no idea how dangerous you are right now. Not just the Dark Temple, but him too. You should know his identity very well. You should know what the consequences are because of his relationship with you. Do you understand? Come with me now, nothing will happen." He wasn't too worried about the people from the Dark Temple. What he was worried about was that the Phoenix would offend the people of the Xians for Long Fei, that the Xians would definitely vent his anger on the Phoenix Valley, that the Xians would find a reason to make trouble for the Phoenix Valley, and that the Phoenix Valley would also be annihilated like the Dragon Vein Mountain. Absolutely do not have any relationship with Long Fei, you must be cut off. Phoenix nodded her head and said, "Fourth Grandpa, I will take care of it." Hearing the old man's words, Long Fei's heart also shivered. He knew what the old man meant. He secretly tightened between his eyebrows as both of his fists subconsciously tightened. His heart sank as he said, "Emperor Xian." His identity was clear in the eyes of the old man. The old man also knew that Xian's was looking for Long Fei. Anything that had to do with Long Fei would be destroyed, and he would be the bane of his existence. Whoever followed him would be doomed. The old man was enraged that he had failed to meet his expectations. His tone grew more serious as he said, "Deal with it. How are you going to deal with this? If you can't even protect yourself, how are you going to deal with the Xians?" "Heh. Brat, I know you have some ability, but do you dare to say that you can deal with the entire Xians? He could kill the Emperor Xian? Is able to eliminate the foreign forces behind Emperor Xian? Can you?" The old man stared straight at Long Fei. Long Fei was stunned. He didn't know how to answer. Indeed, when he was in the universal realm and killed the illusory image of the Emperor Xian, he felt that he could eliminate the Emperor Xian, but when he arrived in the ancient world, he realized that the Emperor Xian was not as weak as he had imagined. He was very strong, incomparably powerful. Not really. Long Fei was very clear. Thus, the reason he kept working hard to cultivate was to make himself strong enough so that he would have the strength to kill Emperor Xian when facing him. But now, he wasn't strong enough to kill Emperor Xian. No, he did not even have a chance. Right now, he was far from being strong enough. Long Fei couldn't answer because he wasn't strong enough. At this moment, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. The old man said, "With your current strength, you are basically not a match for Xian's, not to mention the foreign forces backing Emperor Xian and himself. To put it bluntly, whether or not you can leave the gods' material ground today is still a problem. You are someone who can't even protect yourself. How can you let her stay by your side? Going to die with you? If you don't want her to die with you, then please let her go. I can protect her, I can make her leave safely." The old man stared at Long Fei without moving. Imperceptibly, he gave Long Fei an immense pressure. Be it mentally or mentally, Long Fei felt suffocated from the pressure. It had nothing to do with his cultivation level. Long Fei looked at the phoenix. Phoenix shook her head. Everyone looked at Long Fei. It stopped for a moment. Long Fei raised his head a little, and said, "Indeed, it is as you have said. Right now, I am still unable to go against Emperor Xian, but I believe that there will come a day when I will kill him." Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, the old man sneered, and directly interrupted him. "It's really funny, don't you think that what you just said doesn't have any power at all? Pale and powerless, this is the performance of the weak. You don't have the strength to protect her. Kid, let go." The old man looked at Long Fei and took a step forward. The aura from his body gave Long Fei an even greater pressure. Phoenix tightly held onto Long Fei's hand. Not knowing why, she was afraid that Long Fei would let her go, but fear rose in her heart. This feeling was as if it had happened in the past. Long Fei clenched his teeth tightly. He was truly unable to say a single word. "Miss, let's go home. He can't protect you, and he isn't worthy of you. Let's go." The old man stepped forward and grabbed Phoenix's arm. This time, he did not let Phoenix dodge. Phoenix's other hand firmly grabbed onto Long Fei's arm as she shook her head continuously. "My darling, don't abandon me. Don't leave me behind, okay? Don't leave me behind." Tears welled up in Phoenix's eyes. Zhao Dahan became anxious, and looked at Long Fei. "Boss, what's wrong?" Bailey Tianhai also replied, "Boss." Long Fei stood in place like a dumbstruck wooden chicken. He wanted to pull Phoenix's hand, he wanted to protect Phoenix, he wanted to prove to the old man his strength. But what proof did he have? His current strength was not a match for the Emperor Xian. What proof could he use? In this world, strength was what mattered. He did not have the strength to fight against the Xians at the moment. Thus, he did not have the qualifications or the ability to leave the Phoenix behind. Anger raged in his heart, but what could he do? Long Fei was unwilling, but what could he do? Long Fei was unwilling, but what could he do? Nothing. It was as the old man had said, he could not protect Phoenix now. Phoenix was pulled away from Long Fei by the elder. Phoenix's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Long Fei. She continuously shook her head and said, "Can you not leave me behind? My darling." He was like a child who was about to leave his family. Crying, making a ruckus, struggling. Long Fei stood on the spot, unable to move. He was completely suppressed by the elder's words. The elder spoke out, "Miss, let's go." While they were talking, his palm moved slightly, and rows of seal runes suddenly appeared on his palm. Bringing with them lightning, they directly exploded under his palm. Summoning. They were about to summon their divine beast. However, at this moment, 3 black shadows descended. One of the black shadows suddenly thrust his spear forward. Boom! Directly penetrating the seal runes, the summoning technique was interrupted. "Yarrow Laosi, where do you want to go?" One of the dark emissaries gently raised his head, revealing an incomparably aged face. Wrinkles covered his face. At the same time, his wrinkles were covered in all sorts of black runes. The runes seemed to be able to move, as if small tadpoles were gently moving on his face. From head to toe, he released the power of darkness. Power of darkness continued to emerge from beneath his feet as well, and continuously surged out from deep underground like a spring. As soon as he finished, the faces of the surrounding people immediately became incomparably pale. With a single sentence, he had completely crushed them all. The old man's eyes darkened, and he said with a faint voice, "I didn't expect Black Saint, one of the 3 saints from Dark Temple, to personally come out. This is really surprising." "Ha ha ha." The old man with tadpole runes on his face laughed and said, "Since your Yarrow Laosi is willing to come out, how could I not come? Let the child go. This brat can't protect her, our Dark Temple can protect her, hey." He let out a cold laugh that sounded like the weeping of ghosts. The old man placed Phoenix behind him and warned her, "Miss, be careful." And then, The old man stared at the Black Saint. She is a member of my Phoenix Valley. When will she be able to receive your Dark Temple's protection? Ha ha ha. You're wrong about that. She was born in my Dark Temple. How is that someone from your Phoenix Valley? Is it just because of the Phoenix blood vein on her body? Then she still has our Dark Temple's Dark King blood vein with her. That's why, she's a member of our Dark Temple. The Black Saint said lightly. As soon as he finished, the space between Yarrow Laos's eyebrows tightened. Long Fei regained his senses and was stunned. Even Phoenix herself was stunned as she said, "Fourth Grandpa, what he said." Without waiting for her to finish speaking, Yarrow Laosi immediately said, "He's talking nonsense, don't listen to his nonsense." Nonsense. Ha ha ha. Girl, take out your left hand. The idea has cleared your mind. Is there a black spot on your consciousness? When the black dot is released, the Dark King's power will appear on your left hand. If you don't believe me, you can try. The Black Saint said lightly. The Yarrow Laosi immediately shouted, "Stop spouting nonsense here, she is a phoenix reborn from the ashes, how can she be related to your evil demon Dark Temple in the slightest? You think that just because you performed some demonic arts, someone would believe you?" As he spoke, Phoenix did as he was told. Moreover, she had never told anyone about this. Just as the Black Sage had said, there was indeed a black dot on the spiritual will condensed in his mind. She didn't know what it was. Now that she was told about it by the Black Sage, her heart tensed up. She wanted to know exactly what it was. His left palm moved and gathered his spiritual will. A drop of black ink quietly floated above the spiritual will. Buzz. He released his strength. In an instant, black energy surged from the palm of Phoenix's left hand. It was rolling and rolling like a huge spring, much bigger than the dark spring water under the feet of the Black Sage. Its strength was also incomparably pure. In this instant, the entire God's material ground was covered by this dark energy. The ordinary disciples of the God's material ground were crushed to the point where they kneeled on the ground. All of their faces were incomparably pale, and even the Emperor Swordsman S could only bitterly endure. With just a thought, this place had become hell. Darkness descended. The surrounding ghosts cried out. The souls howled. Everything was being crushed by this force. Even Phoenix was unable to control herself. Her pupils had turned purplish black and her body was burning with black flames. A phoenix body appeared out of nowhere on her body. It was just that. It was the first time Long Fei had seen her with rainbow wings, but now, she had black wings all over her body. Black Phoenix King. The Black Saint became excited and said, "I'm not wrong, right? She's someone from the Dark Temple." Ha ha ha. Yarrow Laosi was also shocked. He only knew that there was a power of taboos in the Phoenix's body and that this power could not be activated no matter what time it took. But he did not think that this power was the power of the Dark King's blood vein. Immediately, Yarrow Laosi spoke in a low voice, "Miss, please stop and control yourself. Hurry." The Phoenix remained unmoved. She had always thought that she was born in the Phoenix Valley, and had always thought that there was only one kind of blood vein in her body. But now, she was a little lost. The Black Saint said with a smile, "Holy Lord, release as much of your power as you want. Let it explode as much as you want. You are the ruler of this world." Ha ha ha. The Phoenix did not stop. The dark energy on the palm of her left hand continued to surge out. No matter how Yarrow Laosi reminded her, it was useless to call her that. They didn't listen to him at all. This won't do. If this goes on, she will become a complete devil. The old man's gaze darkened. He looked at Long Fei and said, "Kid, she has you in her heart. Only you can save her now." Zhao Dahan grinned, "Didn't you say that my boss can't protect her? And now you're asking our boss to save her. How do we save her?" Yarrow Laos's face changed slightly. Long Fei didn't care that much. Taking a step forward, he directly grabbed onto Phoenix's hand and said, "Girl, stop." The Phoenix's purplish-black eyes moved slightly as it stared straight at Long Fei. At this moment, Long Fei felt as though his soul was about to be crushed by the power of darkness on the Phoenix's body, and he instantly became immobilized. Long Fei had never seen this kind of power before. Too powerful. Just one look was enough to make him unable to hold on. Ha ha ha. The Dark King blood vein in her body has been awakened and no one can wake her up. She belongs to the Dark Temple and she is the Dark Saint Lord. Dark Apostle, listen up. Kneel in front of me. The Black Saint said excitedly. Long Fei said once again with a heavy voice. Girl, wake up. The phoenix head angrily opened its black eyes and engulfed Long Fei in flames, as if it wanted to swallow him whole. Dark bone erosion. His soul was shaken. The mind and the sea of consciousness seemed dead. There was no way to release the power. Long Fei felt like he was dead, as if he was being controlled. However, at this moment, Long Fei roared in his heart, power of the Emperor. The phoenix fell into a trance. The phoenix fell into a trance. This was the first time she had ever opened the power of the Dark King's blood vein. Moreover, the power she burst out was forever powerful and independent. Anyone who got near to her would be forced back by this power, and if they touched the phoenix's body, they would instantly be entangled by the power of darkness and devoured. Long Fei had already been entangled by the darkness energy, and his entire body was stained with it. Long Fei ignored her and called out to Phoenix, hoping to wake her up. However, the phoenix was completely lost. There was only one way to wake her up in this situation. Power crush. The only way for Phoenix to wake up was to forcefully crush the power of darkness down until its skin was incomplete. So, Long Fei's mind became sinister. No matter what, let's give it a try. He wasn't sure. Could the energy from the fusion of the aura of the Heart of Kings and the god's material ground suppress the dark energy from the phoenix's body? Long Fei didn't know. This force was not stable. And he only got the hang of it. Will it work? Long Fei did not care so much and heavily shouted, Power of the Emperor. Ah! Rumble. His aura exploded. In an instant, a stream of power shot out explosively, and in the sky, the earth started to violently shake, and the sky formed from power of darkness was instantly destroyed as well. The darkness energy that had bound Long Fei disappeared. The dark energy on Phoenix's body also disappeared. Long Fei was secretly pleased. What the F***K? He had never felt such a strong power before. It was stronger than the power of ancient dragon body, stronger than the strength of infinite boxing. Stronger than his power of eternity. Long Fei could not find any words to describe this power. He only knew that this power was a complete mess. However, this power did not take shape in his body. He had only grasped a little bit of it. He exploded forth, crushing all the forces of darkness. In less than a second, the dark energy completely disappeared. At the same time, the power he released also disappeared. It was as fast as lightning. Long Fei didn't even have time to sense it, he only felt it for an instant. Trigger. Disappeared. Right now, he couldn't even feel it in his body. Holy **T. Isn't this too fast? Why so fast? What exactly is this power? Long Fei's mind was filled with questions. He opened up the system to have a look, and his mind tightened. All of my mana has been used up. Damn. The holy source worth more than 10 million points is lost just like that. In less than a second, Long Fei's holy source value had become 0, completely depleted. The amount of mana used up was a bit hard to describe. It has to do with my mana? Suspicion rose in Long Fei's heart, but he immediately denied it and thought, that's not right. If it's related to my mana, then I should be able to sense the existence of this energy, but now it has completely disappeared. Does it mean that the Heart of Kings has to absorb the god's material ground's energy again? But no. The Heart of Kings did not absorb the aura of the god's material ground. Long Fei was puzzled. Long Quang also frowned and said, Master, I have never seen the power you just released, nor have I seen you use it back then. What is it? Long Quang didn't know either. What did this mean? This meant that Long Batian did not have this power back then. Master, do you feel anything wrong with your body? Long Quang asked worriedly. The power just now was too strong, and he was worried that Long Fei's body wouldn't be able to withstand it. Long Fei sensed for a while, then said, "There's nothing abnormal." It was not like using ancient dragon body, where there were no side effects. Right now, his entire body was relaxed, without the slightest bit of discomfort. Long Quang mumbled, "What kind of power is this?" Long Fei was secretly excited in his heart. If even you don't know, then it means that this is probably the first time this power was born in the ancient world. Heh. Although he did not grasp it, and had not comprehended the power, Long Fei believed that he would definitely be able to grasp it if he was given time. The power of the Emperor crushed the dark energy and it disappeared. The pressure on the entire god's material ground disappeared as well. Countless people panted heavily with incomparably pale faces, as if they had just died once. What just happened? Just now, I felt like I was going to die. Was that hell's descent just now? Who saved us? Many people were discussing, but they had no idea. Even Xianming Abyss had a stupefied expression. He did not even manage to sense the power that erupted from Long Fei's body. He also did not feel whose body that energy came from. Xianming Abyss said in a heavy voice, "God of Underworld, do you know what kind of power it is?" The shadow behind him shook his head. God of Underworld didn't know either. Xianming Abyss's mouth hooked up, and said, "Is it that brat?" His gaze locked onto Long Fei. Xianming Abyss's eyes became excited. "This hope is the power in your body, so I can get more." At this moment, Phoenix was incomparably weak as her body swayed. Her face was pale as she turned around to look at Long Fei and said, "Hubby, so." His eyes blacked out, and his body instantly fell towards Long Fei. Long Fei hugged the Phoenix. Although he did not know where that power had come from, he still attributed all of this to Long Fei. "You dog, you dare to ruin my good plan? Leave her to me." While they were talking, the Black Saint's body combusted with a gigantic flame of darkness, directly transforming into a gigantic sharp claw that grabbed towards Long Fei. Yarrow Laosi moved his body, directly blocking in front of Long Fei, and directly said to Long Fei, "Brat, protect her well." As soon as he finished, Yarrow Laosi shot towards the Black Saint. He had no choice now. He could only block the Black Saint. Although he did not know who had released that power, his intuition told him that it was related to Long Fei. Finished. Yarrow Laosi turned his right hand, and the 10,000 beasts roared, directly blocking the gigantic flaming claws. The Black Saint stared at Yarrow Laosi angrily and said, "Yarrow Laosi, even you dare to stop me? You're courting death. Attack." The other two Dark Apostles rushed towards Long Fei. Yarrow Laosi shouted, "Protect the young miss." The people of Phoenix Valley also instantly rushed out. All of a sudden, a battle between deities took place in the sky above God's material ground. Every move was like pulling out dried weeds and rotten wood. The power continuously clashed together. The entire God's material ground felt like it was about to explode. "Boss, what should we do?" Bailey Tianhai asked. Long Fei said, "Don't worry about them. They couldn't do anything about it." With Long Fei's current cultivation, he could deal with one or two Dark Apostles, but against Black Saint, this level of powerhouse, his strength was insufficient to deal with them. At a time like this, what he needed to do was to protect Phoenix well. On the side, the Phoenix Valley and the Dark Temple were having a fight. On the side, the Phoenix Valley and the Dark Temple were having a fight. All of the sect disciples were dumbstruck as they watched an unparalleled great battle played out in the sky above the god's material ground. They only knew what the divine space powerhouse was today. The sky shattered and space constantly appeared. Big moves flew everywhere. Everyone was dazzled by what they saw. At the same time, they were afraid that a single strike from him would cause a large amount of people to die. All of them tightly shut their minds and held their breaths as they watched with great care. The two powers fought higher and higher, flying higher and higher, before finally disappearing into the sky. They were evenly matched, so it was hard for anyone to win. When the powerhouse's chi disappeared, most of the people on the god's material ground let out heavy breaths. Huff! What did I go through in this day? A fight between deities is too strong. This is the powerhouse of the divine space, do you see it? This is a powerhouse of the divine space. I want to enter the divine space as well and become a powerhouse like you. Too strong. It's indescribably strong. Many people began to slowly discuss amongst themselves. Many sect masters and elders looked towards the ancient antiquities. They now knew Phoenix's identity. It was the Phoenix Valley, the Dark Temple. Even if they didn't know about these two forces, they knew clearly about the power that had exploded out from them just now. This girl could not be provoked. No wonder they are so strong, they actually have the support of the divine space. That girl does not even put the divine powerhouse in her eyes at all. So it turns out that these people do not even have the qualifications to enter her eyes. I feel like those divine powerhouse are getting scared now. They began to mock and criticize her in all kinds of ways. Now that they know who she is, they're probably trembling. Ancient antiquity cannot be provoked. Indeed. It was just as these people had said, those elders from the ancient Era's family all had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. These mortal disciples did not know about the Phoenix Valley S and Dark Temple S, but they were incomparably clear that in comparison to these two great forces, their families were nothing more than ants. And now he still dared to provoke Phoenix. And you still want the resources of the Holy Source vein mine? He didn't dare to even think about it. About that. Everyone, I just received the Patriarch's 1,000-mile sound transmission. Something big has happened at home, so I have to go back. A high god elder stood up. A disciple asked, "This is the mortal world, isn't 1,000 miles of sound transmission unable to reach here?" The elder's face sank. And then, he didn't care that much and immediately left with his two disciples. Some left, and others immediately followed. I have matters to attend to at home, so I'll be leaving first. My 8,000-year-old mother is very ill. I have to hurry back. The patriarch is critically ill. I have to go back as well. My sow has climbed the tree, I want to go back too. In less than 3 minutes, all of the ancient family S had left their spots, and one by one, they flew into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Right now, all they wished for was to grow a few more legs and run faster. He didn't dare to stay any longer. Even if Phoenix had fainted, they did not dare to stay any longer. Thinking about the Phoenix King blood veins, and thinking about the Dark King blood vein, their scalps tingled. Hurry and return to the divine space, otherwise you won't be able to. Moreover, what they had done today was to immediately report back to the clan, and let them make preparations beforehand. They would apologize and apologize. If they were too late, they might be exterminated. The corner of Xianming Abyss's mouth hooked up as he looked at the dozen or so waves of divine powerhouse's power and let out a cold laugh. Then, Xianming Abyss looked at the 10,000 swords, his eyes moved, looked at them, and said, "The clan congress is not over yet, right? If it's not over, let's continue." Only after hearing his words did everyone react. Wan Jian swallowed his saliva. Even the divine powerhouse were afraid. He was also extremely afraid in his heart. Knowing about the power of the Phoenix Valley and the Dark Temple from Song Guqing, the 10,000 swords felt their hearts tremble uncontrollably. He looked at Xianming Abyss. Gritting his teeth, his heart was filled with fear. Song Guqing said indifferently, "Don't worry, Phoenix Valley and Dark Temple are very strong, but no matter how strong they are still not strong enough. As long as you can hug Shenz's leg tightly, even if the forces of Phoenix Valley and Phoenix Valley come together, they wouldn't dare to touch you. Don't worry." Hearing Song Guqing's words, the 10,000 swords finally calmed down. He immediately walked forward, cleared his throat and said, "The competition for the top 100 sects in Clan Congress will continue. The Dao inscription formation just now, the next stage is Beast Master, please prepare yourself." As soon as he finished, the sleeves of the 10,000 swords swept out, the entire god's material ground suddenly changed, and a void black hole appeared on each Beastmaster stage. There were all kinds of demon beast in the black hole. It all depended on Beast Trainer's ability to tame it. "I'll go." Wu Mu stepped forward, as he cultivated the ancient beast mastery that Long Fei had taught him. Now that the Phoenix had fainted, and the powerhouse S of the divine space had left, there should no longer be anyone who would target the ancient antiquity, and no one would dare target them either. However, Long Fei said, let me continue with the competition. Heh. Boss, didn't you say you wouldn't go up? That's right. Now that the powerhouse of the divine space has left, the beast trainer S of these sects are not my match at all. Boss, don't worry. Wu Mu said confidently. Long Fei held the phoenix in his bosom and looked at it seriously. After that, he gave it to Wu Shuai and said, she has already gone up, so how can I not go? Seeing the phoenix unconscious, Long Fei felt his heart ache. When the phoenix woke up, it would definitely be very uncomfortable. Because of her identity, her birth. Long Fei didn't know what to do. He just wanted to vent. Moreover, Long Fei felt that there was a pair of eyes staring at him. It was not Song Xianhu who had stepped into the god realm, but someone else. If the Yarrow Laosi S of the Phoenix Valley knew his identity, then there must be more people here who knew his identity. Long Fei naturally thought of the Xians. Although he did not appear yet, Long Fei was waiting for him. He knew that someone from the Xians would definitely appear. His head was still on the Xians' bounty list, and it was the highest one there. The Xians would never forgive him, just like how he would never forgive the Emperor Xian. Take care of her. I'm going down. After Long Fei finished speaking, he walked into the god's material ground. Seeing Long Fei enter the stage, Xian Ming Abyss's eyes slightly narrowed, the corner of his mouth slightly curled up, and he lightly smiled. I have finally ascended the stage. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Heh. Xian Ming Abyss laughed proudly. The waiter said softly, my lord, what do we do next? Xian Ming Abyss raised his finger. The waiter immediately bent over to listen. Xian Ming Abyss said, let everyone deal with him, I want to know what realm of cultivation he has reached. The waiter nodded and said, I will arrange it right now. Long Fei went up on stage. The moment he stepped into the god's material ground, he felt the aura on his body suddenly surge. Immediately, Long Fei's mind tightened. Could it be? He immediately thought back to that powerful force just now. When he tried to sense them carefully, he discovered that he was enveloped in a powerful aura. It was as if they were one with him. It was a very intimate feeling. No absorption. Long Fei felt that there was nothing special about the heart of kings when it moved it, as if it had never existed. He opened the system to check. It was the same. No attributes, no description. Huff. Long Fei exhaled lightly, and thought, forget it, let's compare the remaining matches. And then, Long Fei's heart quieted down, he quietly stood at the Beastmaster stage, and waited for the Beastmaster competition to begin. Boom. An old man behind him landed with a loud crash. Heh. At this grade, you're still participating in Clan Congress? Long Fei muttered in his heart, but he did not think too much about it. However, after the old man behind him landed, all around him were old men, each of them landing on the beast taming platform. Not a young disciple. This was definitely not the first time they were participating. Against yourself? Long Fei smiled. Their eyes were all looking at Long Fei. Not only his surroundings, all of the participants in the god's material ground had changed. From the start, the young disciples had all turned into old men. These old men had high temples and the wind around their bodies had turned into a gale. They were all grand masters of beast taming. Bailey Tianhai took a step forward and said, they are all sect elders, and even sect masters. Didn't the convention say that only the new disciples can participate? Wn Jian smiled faintly and said, the rules are dead, but people are alive. People can't just die because of the rules, can they? We'll see. Now that all the ancient family S have left, even if the new disciples were to achieve good results in the competition, they would not be chosen by the divine powerhouse. Furthermore, they would even waste their only chance in life. Since the elders of the ancient family are not here, then let's change the rules of the clan congress into a sect competition. Your ancient antiquity can also send elders. I forgot, your ancient antiquity doesn't have any elders. The rules had completely changed. Moreover, in the entire god's material ground, other than Bailey Tianhai who was protesting, no one else said a thing. Obviously, They were all afraid of the Sword Sky sect. No one dared to offend him. Zhao Dahan let out a heavy cry, and said, "How can the rules be changed as you please? You all are too arrogant." Wn Gen laughed out loud and said, "Ha ha ha. Kid, this is the gods' material ground, I will follow the rules. If you don't accept it, you can just withdraw from the competition. No one will stop you. However, if you withdraw from the competition, your ancient antiquity would also be removed from the competition." Both of Zhao Dahan's eyes burned with anger, and he said, "You." Wn Gen sneered and said, "What about me? Compete. If you don't want to compete, then scram." Zhao Dahan still wanted to speak, but Long Fei said first, "Let's begin." Wn Gen smiled complacently and said, "That's right, just be a good boy and compete with me. Disciples, get ready. The Beast Master competition begins now." As soon as he finished, Xianming Abyss leaned forward and smiled at Long Fei. It was also at this time. The waiter behind him snapped his fingers into the air. In that instant, roar! With a roar, the old man behind Long Fei instantly summoned a triangle-shaped flame python. Like a flood dragon, he let out a roar, and flames rolled out from its body, directly striking Long Fei. Zhao Dahan's gaze tightened as he rushed to the front and shouted, "Boss, be careful." Roar! A underworld panther rushed out from Long Fei's left side and pounced towards him. Rumble! A loud explosion resounded. A demon beast that brought along thunder and lightning heavily struck down from the sky. Roar! Roar! It was not a demon beast. In the entire God's material ground, in the 200 sects, other than Long Fei himself, all 199 sects people had summoned their beasts to attack Long Fei. The entire sky was filled with demon beasts. They were all super war beasts. For a time, the God's material ground was filled with the aura of a ruthless demon beast. Zhao Dahan roared, "Fuck, is this a beast training competition? You want to kill my boss? I'm not done with you." Zhao Dahan clenched his fists tightly. Boom! The entire God's material ground began to shake, even the stones were shaking. The 10,000 swords laughed coldly and said, "The Beast Master competition has already begun. Hee hee. Then we will be directly eliminated." Zhao Dahan roared, "If it's eliminated, so be it. What trash of a clan congress, we are not interested in participating." Brothers of Five Elements also rushed forward. However, Long Fei did not panic at all. Sensing that his entire body was being attacked by beasts, he did not panic at all. Zhao Dahan said, "Boss, they are bullying us too much." Long Fei laughed, because slapping their faces like this is even more valuable. Huh! Zhao Dahan was startled. The eyes of the 10,000 swords tightened as they let out a cold snort. Zhong Xian narrowed his eyes. The attacks of the many war beasts fell in unison. At this moment, Long Fei reached into the void hole-s. The space between his eyebrows tightened. This was because his Beast Master stage didn't have a single void hole. Every single void hole was placed in advance, and he didn't even have a single one. Under these circumstances, Long Fei would never complete the Beast Master competition no matter what, he would only lose. The 10,000 swords sneered and said, "Brat, you don't have anything in your void hole. I want to see how you are going to complete beast taming. Ha ha ha. If you do not even have a single demon beast, it would be useless no matter how strong you are at the beast mastery. Even if he doesn't die, he will still lose." This was a sure loss. However, Long Fei did not give up. Opening his 5 fingers, veins on his forehead exploded in anger. A roar. The void hole began to tremble. Boom. Crack. The void hole shattered. However, Long Fei did not retract his hand. His hand had already broken through the space and directly extended into the void hole-s on the Beast Master stage next door. The idea connected. Ah! Gu. A toad's cry. Long Fei retracted his hand and caught the fat toad. His entire body was covered with goosebumps, but Long Fei continued to grab him until he cried out. "Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Catch a toad and bring it out. What a joke! A toad, it's too awesome, ha ha ha." The entire audience was laughing at him. He never would have thought that Long Fei would catch a toad, and it was even one of the most trashy kind, one that could not even be considered a demon beast. In front of these strong beasts, the toad in Long Fei's hand was trembling like an ant. The old fellows of the gods' material ground had long prepared a war beast. The beasts they summoned were all of high level, immortal stage and divine level, all of them were incomparably ferocious. The old fellows of the gods' material ground had long prepared a war beast. The beasts they summoned were all of high level, immortal stage and divine level, all of them were incomparably ferocious. Long Fei only caught a toad. Compared to those beasts, the toad in Long Fei's hands was too small. Moreover, after the toad was caught and saw all the high-level beasts in the sky, it immediately pretended to be dead and stopped even screaming. He trembled and peed his pants in fright. How could they be compared? At this moment, with the attacks of all the beasts in the sky, Long Fei would be attacked by a powerful attack in the next second. What could he use to block it? Using the toad in his hand? Ha ha ha. Kid, prepare to die. I thought you could summon something, but it turns out to be a toad. And it was a toad that was scared to the point of peeing. Ha ha ha. The surrounding Beast Master School master laughed out loud. The flame of the triangular fire python was the first to blast Long Fei's back. The attacks of the other war beasts also fell in an instant. All of a sudden, Long Fei was surrounded by all sorts of beasts and attacks. A toad being mocked. In my hands, let alone a toad, even a grain of sand would crush all of you. Long Fei faced the strong war beast. Facing such a powerful attack, his eyes turned sinister, and the power in his body exploded. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. The heart of King's chi suddenly surged out. The aura on God's material ground also changed in an instant. In that instant, Long Fei felt it. He felt the power that vanished in that instant. You're back. This power. Long Fei's blood started to boil, that familiar feeling, that moment of power, power of the Emperor. Strength burst forth. It also poured into the toad's body in the instant of lightning flashing. Core. A loud explosion resounded. The toad in Long Fei's hand underwent an earth-shattering change. His body swelled up from the explosion, flashing a dazzling light, just like a super big boss. The light was piercing. It was 10,000 times sharper than the frog in the shadow of the fire. The change happened in an instant. Similarly, the moment the transformation was completed, the toad opened its huge mouth. Hualala! A huge vortex appeared in the sky, swallowing all the war beasts in God's material ground and those who were still laughing at him. Gudong! Burp! In an instant, the toad let out a burp. And then, the God's material ground was quiet, not a single sound could be heard, other than Long Fei's dojo, there was no one else. Everyone was staring at Long Fei with their eyes wide open, as though they were looking at a monster. All of this happened too fast. Just a second ago, they were surrounded by beasts, surrounded by 191 Master of Beast Mastery S. Other than Long Fei, there was not a single other person in the arena. Not a single war beast. In the blink of an eye. What had happened? Many people rubbed their eyes and thought it was just an illusion. However, they could not see any changes in the arena even after their eyeballs were almost wiped off. Ha ha ha. Boss is mighty. The boss is domineering. Boss, you're the most amazing one. Ha ha ha. Don't you like to laugh? Keep laughing. Keep laughing. To my boss. The kid from the 10,000 swords, this is what's going on with my boss, what's so good about him? Ha ha ha. Zhao Dahan roared loudly, crazily venting the anger in his heart. Everyone in ancient antiquity was extremely excited, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They were all excited, but no one from the other sects could say anything. The expression on Wn Jian's face also turned ugly. 199 people dealing with one person were all swallowed up by one person, a toad, in a second. What had happened? Even if he had seen it with his own eyes, he would not have known what had happened. 199 Master of Beast Mastery S, This was a huge loss to the sects. A sect master of a sect stood up with a stiff expression and asked, where are they? Yes. Where are they? Where is our sect leader? What about our sect's war beasts? Where are they? Hand it over. After all, a master of beast mastery was extremely valuable. If they died, it would be a huge loss. The sudden death of so many master of beast mastery was a huge blow to the beast tamer world of the mortal world. Long Fei smirked. You want people? He sneered. The toad's body rapidly shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it had turned back into its original form. The power of the emperor disappeared and the toad returned to its original form. However, the toad had peed in fright, but now it had a carefree expression. Long Fei laughed. You want people? Ask it. Finished. Long Fei threw the toad back to the void hole. Many sect elders flew down, but they didn't stop them. Everyone stared at Long Fei, all of their teeth chattering with hatred. Brat, you're too presumptuous. An elder could not hold it in any longer and shouted loudly. Long Fei contemptuously said, That's right, I'm being presumptuous, what about it? Bite me. Come on. Long Fei crooked his finger at him and said with a face full of disdain, When everyone was attacking me earlier, why didn't I see you all say that they were presumptuous? Oh. Now that they have been devoured, I am being impudent. All of you are really reasonable. Long Fei said with a face full of ridicule. The old man's face darkened, he was infuriated by Long Fei's words. Indeed. When they were dealing with Long Fei, they felt that it was natural, but when they were dealt with by Long Fei, they would scold him loudly. They knew that they were in the wrong and didn't dare to speak anymore. Moreover, they knew that Long Fei was not one to be trifled with. Long Fei looked at the 10,000 swords and laughed. In the Beastmaster competition, I am first, am I not? The 10,000 swords looked at Xian Ming Abyss. Xian Ming Abyss lightly nodded his head, and the 10,000 swords said, It's you who is first. Long Fei looked at Xian Ming Abyss, and said secretly in his heart, Is it him? It was also at this time. Long Quang said, He has the qi of someone from the Xians on him, and other than that, there's an extremely powerful aura behind him, but I can't see where he's at. There's definitely a super powerhouse behind him. Super powerhouse? Long Fei's eyes slightly widened, and his mouth hooked into a smile. Boss? And it's even a hidden attribute boss. At least, when he looked at Xian Ming Abyss, he did not see any characteristics of a boss. It did not have any luster or any other attributes, making it look just like an ordinary powerhouse in a mortal world. Hearing Long Quang's words, Long Fei's heart trembled. The people of Xian's were certain. Then, what's next? He was just looking to die. Target confirmed. Target confirmed. Now, all he had to do was wait for the target to appear on stage. Long Fei was not in a hurry. Xian Ming Abyss liked to play, so he would accompany him and slowly play. Long Fei looked at Xian Ming Abyss and smiled faintly. Xian Ming Abyss also smiled faintly, and said, He should know my identity. The waiter's expression changed. My lord, do you want to make a move in advance? Xian Ming Abyss shook both his fingers, and said, There's no need to rush, we can play slowly. I still don't know his full strength. He wasn't in a hurry, because he knew that Long Fei would not be able to escape from his grasp. He wanted to know what kind of power Long Fei still had. The person that could cause the master a headache, the person that issued the bounty, what kind of person was he exactly, and what kind of power was hidden on his body? Xian Ming Abyss wanted to understand. The waiter lowered his head and asked, Master, then how should we arrange the following matches? Xian Ming Abyss said, You can do whatever you want. The waiter said, As you wish. Long Fei was very clear about Xian Ming Abyss's identity, and Xian Ming Abyss was very clear about Long Fei's identity, but the 10,000 Swords of Sword Sky sect did not know Long Fei's identity. Song Guqing did not know either. Wen Jian was a little unsure in his heart, and asked, Senior brother, what kind of power is this brat training with? Let's not talk about the fact that they didn't die after being entangled by the power of darkness just a moment ago, but now, They had actually exterminated more than 100 Master of Beast Mastery S in an instant. What is going on? He was worried. After all, Sword Sky Sect and Ancient Antiquity had already clashed. Water and fire are incompatible. Adding Song Xianhu, who was beside him, he quietly waited. Long Fei is so powerful, is he even his match? Song Gucheng frowned, he thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, I can't see it either. Wn Zhen said, then should we go down, Immortal Fox? The space between Song Gucheng's brows tightened even more. He knew clearly that Song Xianhu had entered the Piracelestial stage, but there was still a hurdle in his heart. Long Fei. If he did not pass this hurdle, even if he managed to enter the divine space, his talent would be limited, and he would have great achievements in cultivation difficulty. He had to kill Long Fei in order to eliminate the demon in his heart. Huff. Song Gucheng exhaled lightly, and said, the competition of the Sword Dao is the last, I hope that Xians can get rid of him quickly. He wasn't sure. Boss, there's no need for Clan Congress to continue. Let's leave. Bailey Tianhai said worriedly. Currently, all the sects in Clan Congress are dealing with Ancient Antiquity. Everyone could see it. They were trying to kill Ancient Antiquity. It was one thing for two sects to target each other, but hundreds of sects were attacking at the same time. How many matches could Long Fei withstand? This was no longer a sparring session, this was a killing match. Everyone looked at Long Fei. They all understood this in their hearts. The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted slightly, and said, it's fine, they like to play, so I'll play with them. But Bailey Tianhai wanted to say something but hesitated. Long Fei said, no matter what happens to me, none of you are allowed to enter the arena. Zhao Dahan said, boss, you want us to sit here and watch the show? We didn't come with you to watch a show. If they dare to do that again, I don't care. Brothers of Five Elements also nodded heavily, no one bullies others like them. He couldn't watch it any longer. Long Fei smiled faintly, and said, listen to my orders, you must not enter the stage. Zhao Dahan asked, why? We can't deal with those gods' powerhouses, but we can definitely deal with these sects' powerhouses, yeah. We can at least share a bit of your burden. Long Fei said, this is my order, if you all still regard me as your boss, then listen to me, protect Phoenix well. He did not explain. Because, Long Fei did not want them to die. How many people from Xians had come? Where is the super powerhouse? I don't know. The only thing Long Fei could do was make them pay attention to him. If he did that, they would ignore the existence of Zhao Dahan and the others. If he won, then these brothers would all be alive. If he lost, these people might still be alive. After all, the Xian's target was him. Furthermore, when he thought about what the Yarrow Laosi had said, that he was a calamity, and that the people around him would be harmed because of him. It was because of him that Dragon Vein Mountain was killed by Emperor Xian. Zhao Dahan and the others had not grown any wings yet, and could not take charge of themselves yet. When they truly become stronger, Long Fei would allow them to participate. Long Fei walked to Phoenix's side, and looked at her locked eyebrows. Long Fei's heart inexplicably hurt a little, as he thought to himself, you're only injured because of me, right? I still don't know if there are people from the Dark Temple here yet. Perhaps what your fourth grandpa said was right. I really am a calamity, I simply don't have any way to protect the people around me. At least, until the Xian's is destroyed by me, I won't be able to protect you. Long Fei was blaming himself in his heart. His fists could not help but secretly clench, his heart heavy, Emperor Xian. His eyes narrowed. Long Fei took a step forward and said loudly, is it time for the talisman competition? The 10,000 swords were stunned. Her gaze turned towards Shen Ming Abyss. Shen Ming Abyss nodded. Wn Zhen walked to the stage and said, please prepare for the next competition of Talisman S. With that, the scene on the god's material ground changed again, directly becoming the talisman stage. Long Fei did not wait, and directly entered the martial grounds. He wanted to experience the power of the Emperor. This was the first time he had used this power, and it had consumed all of his holy source value. However, this time, its power was extremely strong, and directly smashed the power of darkness on the Phoenix's body. One must know that the Dark King blood vein on the phoenix's body was incomparably powerful, and it was also the first time it exploded, so it was even stronger than before. Even a massive explosion might not be enough to crush him. The power of the Emperor did it. The second use was also when Long Fei was unable to control himself. This time, he did not manage to recover his mana, but he still used up a bit of energy and used his strength, turning the toad into a divine beast. Compared to the first time, it was much weaker. The strength of the power of the Emperor was related to the value of the holy source. Long Fei was not sure. However, all of these were things that Long Fei did not want to know. What he wanted to know was how this power was birthed, and how it erupted. Both times were uncontrollable situations. It was like an instinctive explosion. How do I train this power? How do I grasp it? Long Fei was truly confused, but he knew that the power of an emperor was definitely related to the god's material ground. Is it related to the emperor of the heavenly sword? Could it be that he comprehended the power of the emperor's Tao all those years ago? Long Fei said in his heart. As long as he was able to master the power of the Tao of the emperor, he believed that it wouldn't be too hard for him to bring his brothers out of this place. Even the superpower house would not be able to stop him. However, how should he grasp it? Long Fei was still thinking hard. Standing within the god's material ground, that special aura was once again connected to his body, as if he was a part of the god's material ground. There were no changes to the heart of kings. Just like before, he could only feel a dense aura of the god's material ground, and was unable to feel the power of the emperor. However, he didn't have much time to think about it. The disciples of the other sects entered the stage one after another. Just like the previous match, the ones who entered the stage were the elders of every sect, and were the strongest master of coding draftess within their sects. Zhao Dahan couldn't hold back his anger, and said fiercely, "Another 199 against 1? Can you guys at least show some face?" Out of the 199 master of coding draftess, they did not enter the arena to compete, but to kill Long Fei. Brothers of Five Elements was also furious. There were constant protests. However, no one in the entire god's material ground cared about them. You just killed 199 sect elders. How could they let you off? If he doesn't die, these sects will never give up. Sigh. I don't think you need to call this ancient antiquity, just call it a death sect. If it's not offending this, then it's offending that. If it's not courting death, then what is this? Logically speaking, the young miss of the Phoenix Valley are within these sects. Why would they dare to be so impudent? Who knows? You probably think that the ancient antiquity is too arrogant. Some of the sects that were eliminated began to discuss amongst themselves. However, they were just good bystanders. For them, what happened today was too much fun. Stop arguing, the competition begins. Who do you think will win? I think that Brat will definitely die in this battle. He is the #1 master of coding draft of our mortal realm. If he is already present, then what hope does that kid have? It will definitely die. I bet he won't last more than a minute. I bet 30 seconds. You guys don't believe him that much. I bet 20 seconds on him to collapse. Many people began to bet on it. Not many people favored Long Fei. 1 against 199 had no advantages, and his cultivation was only at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman. He did not even have a Emperor Swordsman rank. The Beast Mastery just now was only a coincidence. Talisman art was another form of cultivation. No matter how awesome a person was, he wouldn't have so many supporting positions. And then again, many people wished for Long Fei to die. It was precisely because of this year's clan congress that ancient antiquity became like this. There was not a single ancient family left. He didn't even have a chance to enter the divine space. How could he not hate him? Xian Ming Abyss laughed. Who do you think will win? The servant thought for a moment, then said, I don't think he can win, even if he knows some ancient martial arts, but this is 199 master of coding draft S. Could it be that he can swallow all of them like that toad just now? Xian Ming Abyss smiled, and said, I think he will win. The waiter's gaze turned cold, eh? Xian Ming Abyss laughed. How can the people that the master wants be ordinary people? These mortals are no match for him. If these people were enough to deal with Long Fei, then master would not be able to use so much energy to kill Long Fei. The waiter asked, Sir, then why did we arrange for so many people to die? Xian Ming Abyss sneered and said, as cannon fodder, they should have the mindset of being cannon fodder. Being able to become cannon fodder for my Xians is also a blessing they gained from their previous lives. So many people had gone to their deaths. Sorry. In Xian Ming Abyss's eyes, these people were people that he had never even seen. To him, it was just a bunch of cannon fodder. That's all. The waiter was stunned for a moment before lowering his body even lower. The talisman competition began. Just like the beast training competition just now, those Master of Coding Drafts instantly summoned their prepared talisman the moment the competition started. God's General Killing Talisman, Ocean Beast Heaven Devouring Talisman, Golden Python Talisman, Heaven Breaking Sword Slayer. Every single talisman was glowing with a golden light. Every single one of them was a divine-level talisman. They uniformly flew towards Long Fei, and in an instant, Long Fei's body was surrounded by the same as if it was a rain of talisman, enveloping him within. Boss, be careful. Zhao Dahan and the others grabbed the railings. They were extremely worried. Long Fei quietly stood where he was, looking at the talismans and ingredients on the talisman stage. He felt all sorts of powerful forces surrounding him. His lips curled up slightly, and he coldly said, the lesson just now was not enough. Heh. All right then. No matter how many you come today, I'll kill them all. He closed his eyes and tried to sense it. He could not sense the existence of any power of the Emperor. However, in his heart, he still shouted, Power of the Emperor. No power erupted from him. Long Fei picked up the talisman brush, walked with the idea, and casually drew with it as the holy source poured in. In that instant, the moment the talisman formed, he felt a strong force suddenly pour into him. The talisman immediately floated into the air. A golden light flashed. Buzz. A blinding light immediately enveloped Long Fei. It looked like a golden magic shield. At the same time, 199 powerful attacks of the talisman flew towards him, all of them absorbed by the golden shield. There was no explosion. It was as if their talisman was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no trace of them. All the Master of Coding Draft in the martial ground were stunned. God's material ground was quiet all around. All of them had their mouth agape as they stared at Long Fei, dumbstruck. Why? What's going on? What happened? What's the situation? What about those divine runes? Why did everyone disappear? All of them have been absorbed by the golden light. That kid's figure can't even be seen anymore. He can't be dead, right? Everyone was dumbfounded. Suddenly, a disciple exclaimed, the back of their head. Instantly, the talismans that they had released just now were floating at the back of the heads of the 199 talismans on the stage. What was different was that these talismans were all glowing with a golden light. It was the golden light that was the protective shield that was wrapped around Long Fei's body. It floated silently behind their heads. Their gazes turned wooden, and many people began to tremble. They wanted to hide, but these talismans continued to follow behind their backs. More people began to tremble. Her face was pale, and fear could be seen in her eyes. Long Fei, don't act recklessly. Brat, if you dare act recklessly, I will definitely destroy your ancient antiquity. I will make sure that your ancient antiquity is barren. I am the highest elder of the Sword Sky sect. If you dare to touch me, you will not have a good ending. They were all threatening Long Fei. The more threatening they were, the more afraid they became. Some had even knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. However, Long Fei did not even glance at them. His gaze was fixated on the high and mighty Xian Ming Abyss. All of you, die. All of you, die. All of you, die. Long Fei bellowed. One after another, the golden runes stabbed into the back of their heads. Swoosh swoosh, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Like bullets exploding on their heads, the bullets shot out from between their eyebrows in an instant. All of a sudden, blood rained down from the sky. Corpses fell from the sky one after another. Bam! Bang! 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 None of them escaped. The entire god's material ground was filled with corpses. Long Fei's face was covered in blood, as he coldly looked at Xianming Abyss, who was on the stage with a smile, and laughed coldly. The scene was like a bloody purgatory. It was incomparably terrifying. The entire god's material ground fell into silence once more, a silence akin to death. There was no sound at all. In their hearts, Long Fei was no longer a human, but a demon. A demon that they were extremely afraid of. Another large number of talismans had been instantly killed, and the talisman art in the mortal world would probably be lost for hundreds of years. Just because of this kid in front of him, they hated him to the core. However, other than hatred, they didn't dare express it. Long Fei laughed indifferently. He looked at the 10,000 swords and said, "Continue." Gudong. Wen Jian swallowed it all. His body involuntarily shivered. He looked at Long Fei, but he did not know what to say. Continue on? What if he were to continue dying? Two groups of people had already died. These people were all the top elders of the sect. Their deaths had a huge impact on the world. What if they were to continue dying? What if he died all the way? The 200 strongest sects all died in the end. Could that sect withstand it? He couldn't die anymore. The 10,000 swords could not help but look at Xianming Abyss. Xianming Abyss said indifferently, "Then let's continue." Easily stated. There was no trace of regret in his eyes. He was completely indifferent to the deaths of these people. No matter how many he died, he wouldn't feel any heartache. In his eyes, these people were cannon fodder. Hearing his words, many sects backed off. "I'm not participating. The powerhouses of the divine space are also not here. There's no point in continuing to compete. I will withdraw from this year's clan congress. My barbarian sect will also withdraw. I don't want to send my men to their deaths. This kid is a devil. An evil spirit. I definitely won't participate in this competition again." After being killed twice in a second, they were already afraid. Long Fei was too strong. If the first time was a coincidence, then was the second time a coincidence. They did not even know where Long Fei was strong, and knew that he was not someone they could handle. Any Grandmaster-level elder was extremely important to the sect. If they were to sacrifice their sect like this, they might not even be able to recover. With the exit of the sect, many sects immediately followed. Moreover, many people stood up and prepared to leave the god's material ground. He didn't want to die like this again. "Ha ha ha. You must be afraid." Zhao Dahan shouted excitedly, "Do you think you guys alone can fight with my boss? You must be a turtle that's cowering in its shell now. Ha ha ha." The people of ancient antiquity were excited. At this moment, Xianming Abyss's ice-cold voice resounded, and said, "Who wants to leave?" The sound wasn't loud, but it carried an extremely powerful penetrating force. It directly exploded on everyone's minds, making them involuntarily shiver. One of the sect heads said loudly, "I will withdraw. We are no match for him. If we continue, we will just be throwing our lives away." Not waiting for him to finish. The corner of Xianming Abyss's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a death god's smile. In that instant, the head of the sect master flew into the air, blood spurting wildly from his neck. At the same time, Xianming Abyss's ice-cold voice sounded out once more, "Who else wants to leave?" He didn't even have time to react before he was killed in an instant. The strong ones were a bit domineering. However, another clan elder stood forward and said, "Your Dark God tribe is very strong, then your Dark God tribe's people can go deal with him. Why must they implicate us? We're not your dogs." Before he could finish his words, Xianming Abyss's figure moved once again. Boom! Another head fell to the ground. Xianming Abyss licked the blood on his finger, coldly said, "Are you my dog? You are not worthy." Then, Xianming Abyss's gaze swept across them as he coldly said, "Who else wants to leave? I will help him." To kill two people in a row, The two were both Emperor Swordsman powerhouses. This power was simply too strong. Those who had threatened to withdraw from the meeting sat back down, not daring to make a sound. The 10,000 swords looked at Shen Ming Abyss, and said softly, "Senior brother, what is his cultivation?" Song Guqing shook his head, "I can't tell either, but the two moves just now were the Shen's suicide hands cultivation technique, and people who can cultivate this technique have high statuses in the Shen's. I've never seen him make a move before. To think that." Wn Jian said in shock. He had started because Shen Ming Abyss's identity was strong and his strength was average. Who would have thought that he would be instantly killed the moment he attacked? In his hands, the powerhouses of the Emperor Swordsman were like ants. Song Guqing said, "For now, the Shen's is the strongest one. I just said, you can't offend him." Wn Jian was secretly glad in his heart. If he had fought with Shen Ming Abyss, he would probably be the same as the other two, killed in an instant. Seeing that the surroundings had quieted down, Shen Ming Abyss's figure moved, and instantly appeared in front of Long Fei. Zhao Dahan and the rest of the ancient antiquity tensed up. They immediately wanted to rush down, but were stopped by Bailey Tianhai. Bailey Tianhai said, "Don't go down." Zhao Dahan said, "Second brother, we are going to fight now, we have to go and help." Bailey Tianhai said, "Don't forget boss words, we will only bring him trouble if we go down." Shen Ming Abyss landed, sized Long Fei up with interest, and said indifferently, "Remains of Long family. It must have been really hard to find you." Long Fei said, "What's wrong? Thinking of Dad?" Shen Ming Abyss's gaze tightened, and killing intent burst out of his eyes as he said, "Brat, the patriarch of Shen's had always wanted your life, and you escaped time and time again. But today, you will definitely not be able to escape." Long Fei said, "It's been countless times that idiot from your Shen's has said such words, but in the end, he was still trampled to death by me." Shen Ming Abyss gave a cold laugh, and said, "You really know how to speak. They are them, and I am me. If I say today that you can't live, then you absolutely can't live. Including those behind you." He raised his gaze. Shen Ming Abyss glanced at the people from the ancient antiquity behind Long Fei. Long Fei said calmly, "Heh. Even if your Shen's were to stand in front of me, I would definitely beat him up, you little minion. Speak the truth. I really don't put him in my eyes." The muscles at the corner of Shen Ming Abyss's eyes twitched, the killing intent in his body became even stronger. Long Fei laughed, "Are you unhappy? If you're not happy, then let's fight." Long Fei was very direct. He immediately declared war on Zhongshen. However, Shen Ming Abyss laughed coldly, and said, "Do you want to take action before your power completely disappears?" Long Fei looked at Shen Ming Abyss. Shen Ming Abyss slowly circled around Long Fei with his hands behind his back. "The first time you released your power, it should be to deal with the darkness energy coming from that girl Phoenix Valley, right? If the power of the Dark King's blood vein were to be completely unleashed, it would be much stronger than the strength of the Dark Emperor. However, your body's strength is enough to directly crush the power of darkness. I have to say, it's very strong. This is the first time. The second time you poured your power into that ordinary toad's body, turning that toad into a super divine beast, and swallowed those beast trainer in one gulp. He's also very strong, but compared to the first time, he's at least 30 times weaker. The third time. It was just a moment ago. When you infuse your power into the talisman, it would be an instant kill, but it would be several times weaker than the second time. Don't you feel that your strength is weakening rapidly? I'll use it weaker every time. A few more times, I'm afraid you'll be an ordinary martial artist." Shen Ming Abyss looked at Long Fei. He acted as if he had seen through Long Fei. Indeed. Just as he said, the power of the Emperor that Long Fei had released was getting weaker and weaker at a time. Furthermore, the trend of its weakening was also extremely big, almost as if it had fallen off a cliff. Long Fei found out the reason. However, the power of the Emperor was only one of his trump cards. Even if he did not have it, it would not be difficult for him to deal with Shen Ming Abyss with the power of the ancient dragon body he was currently training in. He still had infinite boxing. However, would it be able to deal with Shen Ming Abyss, or the superboss hiding behind him? This Long Fei, on the other hand, was not confident. Long Fei laughed. You seem to have seen through me. Shen Ming Abyss laughed and said, of course, otherwise, why do you think I arranged so much cannon fire to waste your time? I, Shen Ming Abyss, never do things that I am not confident in. The last 2 times I let you escape was because I wasn't here. Dark God Tribe definitely wouldn't allow 3 failures. He was extremely confident. He thought that he had thoroughly researched Long Fei. Long Fei laughed. What you're saying seems to me to be that you're afraid. Shen Ming Abyss laughed. Scared? Ha ha ha. From birth till now, I, Shen Ming Abyss, have never known what fear means. Then let's do it. Long Fei mocked. Under his sleeves, he gently spread open his 5 fingers as he prepared to strike the moment Shen Ming Abyss landed. However, the power of the Emperor was not something that he could release just like that. Long Fei was completely unable to fathom it. Even if he were to focus all his strength now, it would be useless. He wouldn't be able to sense the existence of the power of the Emperor in the slightest. It felt a little scary. Shen Ming Abyss said, are you trying to provoke me? What a pity. Useless. I have to be careful when I deal with people like you. While they were talking, Shen Ming Abyss's figure moved. He immediately retreated backwards, and laughed. You want to sneak attack? Ha ha ha. Kid, you still have a long way to go. Long Fei heaved a sigh of relief. He released the power from his palm. Long Quang reminded, Master, every move of yours is within his perception. His cultivation is way stronger than you. Knowing that Long Fei wanted to mount a sneak attack, he immediately left. He just didn't want to face Long Fei head-on right now. Long Fei's mind tightened. Long Quangdao, and just now, that super powerhouse was right behind him the entire time. Even though I couldn't sense his exact location, I knew that he was right around Shen Ming Abyss. Shen Ming Abyss definitely would not take his life as a joke. He knew in his heart that he wouldn't be able to stop Long Fei's power of the Emperor, which was why he had God of Underworld follow him. Long Fei thought to himself, I don't care about Shen Ming Abyss, even if he can see through my power of the Emperor, I am confident that I can kill him without using the power of the Emperor, and that he will be the super powerhouse behind him. He didn't even notice his body. What kind of cultivation? I don't know. This was also what Long Fei was afraid of. However, right now, he was even more worried about Phoenix and the others. Fighting with Shen Ming Abyss was unavoidable. Although he could win against Shen Ming Abyss, that super powerhouse, Long Fei really didn't know. Thus, he had to ensure Phoenix's safety. Shen Ming Abyss returned to his seat, looked at the 10,000 swords and asked coldly, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and send someone to clean up the dojo. WN Jian immediately took a step forward and said, quick, quick. Everyone from the various sects, bring the corpses back and clean them up. The competition will continue in 10 minutes. The 10,000 swords truly did not dare to be negligent now. Long Fei returned to his position in the ancient antiquity. Everyone gathered around him. Long Fei locked the center of his brows and looked at the phoenix first. The phoenix was still unconscious, so he was certain that it would not wake up for a while. The incident with the Dark King Bloodvein was too big of a blow to her. Furthermore, she had always thought that she was born in the Phoenix Valley, but he did not expect to be born in the Dark Temple. She couldn't accept it. She was physically and mentally exhausted from the corrosion of the power of darkness. He wouldn't be able to wake up in a short period of time. Even if he woke up, he definitely wouldn't have much combat strength. Phoenix was the only person Long Fei was currently worried about. Shen Ming Abyss and I have definitely fought. There's still a very powerful person behind him, and he hasn't appeared since then. It might be someone even more powerful than the Shens. Long Fei said honestly. Zhao Dahan said, Boss, just what do you want us to do? Long Fei looked at Bailey Tianhai and said, once I start a fight with Shen Ming Abyss, I want you to bring Phoenix and these people to quickly evacuate God's material ground. Bailey Tianhai immediately asked, what about you? Long Fei said, I will stay behind to delay them. Zhao Dahan said, Boss, I'll accompany you. Brothers of 5 Elements immediately said, there's us too. They just wanted to share some of the burden for Long Fei, and do their best. Even if they couldn't do anything, they could still block the attacks for Long Fei and die for him without any hesitation. Long Fei said, I know that you all want to help me out, but this is not a competition between sects. I don't even know what kind of powerhouse I would have to face, let alone you all. As long as you are alive, I will be able to fight against them peacefully. Aotianzong and the other sects will definitely stop me from fighting with Shenming Abyss, and when that happens, it'll be up to you guys. Long Fei looked at Feng Huang. Feng frowned and said, you must protect her well. The phoenix was the only thing that Long Fei was worried about. This girl had always made him feel like he had seen her before, that she had been by his side before. His memories were still sealed by the seal. He couldn't remember. His intuition told him that this girl could not receive any harm. Bailey Tianhai nodded heavily, and said, Boss, don't worry, even if we all die, I will definitely protect her. Zhao Dahan, the brothers of 5 Elements nodded heavily. Long Fei smiled in consolation. And then, Long Fei let out a light breath of air as he looked into the sky. Let's fight. With a strong wind, it was over. With a strong wind, it was over. Long Fei went on stage again. The elders from the other sects, along with the Powerhouse S, also stepped onto the stage. It was another 199 against 1 against Long Fei. Long Fei was not afraid. In a few short minutes, he once again crushed the entire audience. The entire arena was once again filled with corpses. Come down and clean up the body, Long Fei shouted, and his gaze landed on Shenming Abyss. Shenming Abyss said with a smile on his face. He was not sad at all because of the deaths of these people. Instead, he was happy because the power that Long Fei had exploded out earlier was much weaker than before. It's getting weaker and weaker. Seems like the power in his body is a consumable. The more he uses it, the weaker it becomes. Shenming Abyss said. Indeed. Long Fei's power of the Emperor was getting weaker and weaker. Not controlled. In the god's material ground, it was impossible for him to not use it. He could naturally do it, but this kind of explosion was not controlled by Long Fei. He did not want to use the power of the Emperor, but it would naturally erupt. Even if he didn't use it, he still wouldn't be able to do anything. Long Fei was also very agitated. What happened exactly? The more I use it, the weaker it becomes. Will it run out of energy if I use it again? This power. Long Fei looked calm, but he was actually a little anxious. The uncontrollable power of the Emperor made him very unhappy. More importantly, he couldn't figure it out at all. Long Quang had also been thinking of a way. What a pity. He had no way to deal with this kind of power that he had never seen before. Long Fei asked, will this power really disappear? Long Quangdao, Master, I don't know either. I have never seen this kind of power before, but it is getting weaker and weaker. F***ck. Long Fei cursed out, and thought to himself, it would be too wasteful to use all of this power. No way. We can't just disappear like this. Long Fei was unwilling to give up. It was also at this time. WN Jian said loudly again, please prepare yourselves for the next match. As soon as he finished, the various sects also sent out their Powerhouse S and elders to participate. Very quickly, Long Fei was surrounded by people. Although many sects were unwilling to fight, there was nothing they could do. Even top sects like the Sword Sky sect and Aotianzong could only send out their elders, they simply could not resist. Right now, what he needed to do was to kill Long Fei as soon as possible. Once Long Fei, the Scourge, died, everything would come to an end. Thus, they did not hold back at all, as they were all going to fight with the powerhouse. All of a sudden, the entire god's material ground was filled with killing intent, surrounding Long Fei. Long Fei smirked, it's not enough yet. Then let's continue. The 10,000 swords said coldly, let the competition begin. Boom. Rumble. Rumble. No matter what the competition was now, there was no prelude to it. He immediately released his strongest move. Without holding back. Brat, you can go die now. If you die, then everything will be over. Go to hell. Long Fei was struck by an earth-shattering technique. Long Fei laughed, it's better for you to die than for me, so. I think you should all go die. His voice sank. As the idea moved, Long Fei became incomparably careful as he very carefully felt the energy in his body circulate within his body. Holy source value. It's normal. The circulation of the power of the Qi method is normal. The activation of his strength is normal. He constantly checked the system to sense the circulation of his power, not missing out on a single step. He wanted to find out how the power of the Emperor was released, Heart of Kings. It's normal. There was no difference at all. There was no interference from any external force. And then, Long Fei unleashed his power. The moment it was released, the power suddenly changed. The holy source value had been completely used up. His strength had become abnormally strong. In that moment, Long Fei felt as if he was the king of the world. Although it was only for a short 10% of a second, at that moment, Long Fei felt that he was the same as the Emperor. His strength exploded. The feeling disappeared. The explosive power directly shattered those powerful moves. Those sect elders were all sent flying one by one. Bam! Bang! 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 It flew into the air and landed heavily on the ground. However, this time was different from the previous few times. A large portion of these people did not die, but were heavily injured. Only those with low cultivation base died on the spot. Ah! Save me! Quick, save me! Ah! All sorts of miserable shrieks rang out. Their faces were pale, and they couldn't move their bodies. Although they weren't dead, they were heavily injured and couldn't move. Long Fei was stunned. He was still recalling that moment. The path of the Emperor. The Emperor's Tao. The path of kings of tens of thousands of great Taos. Is that what you mean? Long Fei's forehead was locked tight. Long Guangdao, Master, just now, your strength was much weaker. Long Fei raised his eyes, his heart sunk. Right now, we can't even kill him in an instant. If we were to continue the match, I'm afraid that we won't even be able to release power of the Emperor. Will it slowly become useless? No. I must have missed something. I must have realized something. Long Fei did not believe that such a powerful force would become useless. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Xianming Abyss stood up and laughed out loud. I knew it, but your strength is constantly weakening. We can't even kill them now. If it's the next round, I'm afraid you won't be able to kill anyone, right? Ha ha ha. Xianming Abyss laughed excitedly. Long Fei's mouth formed a cold smile, and slowly walked to the side of an old man who was heavily injured, and laughed. If I can't kill him in one move, then I'll make two move. As soon as he finished, Long Fei heavily stomped down with his foot, directly smashing the old man's head to pieces. Long Fei's eyes were fixed on Xianming Abyss, and he said, I've said it before, I'll kill as many as I can get. Bam! As he spoke, he stomped over another heavily injured old man to death. A figure flashed. Long Fei killed all of the elders who were not dead with a single kick. Finally, God's material ground was once again filled with corpses. This time, Long Fei had even angered all of the sects. All of them stared at Long Fei fiercely. Long Fei did not even look at him. Whoever comes down will die. I do not care who you are, I will die. Xianming Abyss laughed faintly, and said, WN Jian, prepare for the next round. WN Jian immediately stepped forward and said, the next competition is also the last competition. For the competition in the way of the sword, please prepare yourselves. At the same time, WN Jian hesitated, then said, this kid has killed so many of us. How can we let him go? Me, WN Jian, I will represent the Sword Sky sect here. I will fight in the next round. I would never go around him. The 10,000 swords suddenly announced the start of the battle. The various sect masters and elders were all shocked. 10,000 swords will fight. 10,000 swords will fight. He was the publicly recognized #1 powerhouse in the mortal world. the leader of the Sword Sky sect. He was going to fight. This meant that he was going to die with Long Fei. Not only that. This was also why the 10,000 swords wanted to show goodwill to Xianming Abyss. Xianming Abyss could see that Long Fei's strength was decreasing, and the 10,000 swords could see it too. This was the best time to fight. This was because the energy that exploded from Long Fei's body was no longer able to kill them. Even those strongest Emperor Swordsman just now could not be killed, so he would definitely not die. What was the realm of the 10,000 swords? Emperor Swordsman. At the same time, his cultivation was comparable to those second-stage gods' powerhouse. If it was the explosion of that power just now, he had enough confidence to block it. Also, he had another purpose. Protect Song Xianhu. Song Xianhu would appear as a disciple of another sect, so he had to protect him well and not let Song Xianhu get heavily injured again. Otherwise, Song Xianhu would really be crippled. Since sect head WN is going to fight, then I. The voice was loud like a bell. When it exploded in the air above God's material ground, Ao Tianzong's sect master took a step forward and directly landed in the air above God's material ground, and said, "I will also participate in the battle, I will definitely exterminate this demon." Ao Tianzong's sect master also went to battle. The top 10 ranking sects all understood. Since these sect masters were already in battle, could they still be afraid? I represent the Mountain River sect. I am representing Sky Flame sect. Each and every old man who had cultivated for hundreds, or even thousands, of years flew out. These people were all powerhouse of the Emperor Swordsman. It could be said. They represented the strongest power in the mortal world. 99 sects and over 150 sect masters had come out to battle. This battle. It could be said to be the strongest battle in the mortal world. Bailey Tianhai frowned. This is the strongest person in the mortal world. Zhao Dahan said, "Aren't these old things being too shameless? So many people bullying my boss. Second brother, are we really not going to fight?" "Yeah. Brother Tianhai, we can't just watch our boss deal with so many people by himself. This clan congress has no meaning at all. Let's go as well." That's right. They couldn't help it either. Was this still called clan congress? This was a killing convention. He wanted to destroy Long Fei. This was also the truth. If Long Fei did not die, they would continue to be cannon fodder. Bailey Tianhai shook his head and said, "Boss can do it by himself, we believe in him." Zhao Dahan said, "I'm really angry. I just watched them bully the boss, but there's nothing we can do. It's really King useless." Bailey Tianhai patted Zhao Dahan's shoulders and said, "Raise your head and look at how many people there are in God's material ground. There's still a lot left. When the time comes, we will have time to vent." Bailey Tianhai trusted Long Fei's arrangements. Right now, they were waiting for Xianming Abyss to fight. Zhao Dahan clenched his fists tightly, looking at Long Fei on the God's material ground, his teeth chattering loudly. One by one, sect masters flew into the God's material ground. One by one, they landed to the left and right of Long Fei, their eyes were cold, the might of the Emperor Swordsman unceasingly surged towards him. Boom! Boom! Rumble! Explosions continuously sounded in the sky. The pressure was like rolling thunder, constantly crushing Long Fei's sea of consciousness. But the might of the Emperor Swordsman rank was nothing to Long Fei. It wouldn't crush him in the slightest. Long Fei looked at the surrounding sect masters, smiled slightly, and said, "Everyone's here. All right then. Save me the trouble of going to collect my debts from all of you." With a heavy shout from the 10,000 swords, he said, "Brat, you've killed so many of us, do you think you can still live? Obediently kneel down and accept your death. You're right. Kneel down and wait for death." Their voices were like thunder, floating high up in the air. Long Fei stood alone on the ground. They stared coldly at Long Fei as if they were gods and Buddhas. Long Fei laughed. "What nonsense are you speaking? Just directly attack. To be a dog for the Xians is to go against me, Long Fei. None of you will live. Come." Long Fei let out a loud roar. Song Xianhu's eyes turned sinister, and said heavily, "You dog, take this strike of mine first. Sword World. Heavenly God's sword shadow Song Xianhu took a step forward, then, an extremely strong sword intent appeared. The sword intent formed an invisible sword world, and the 100,000 mountains of the sword world heavily smashed towards Long Fei's head. Rumble. 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 The sword world came crashing down, and the explosive sound of the god's power caused the space above Long Fei's head to shatter. What a powerful sword intent. This cultivation must have surpassed the Emperor Swordsman, right? Is this the sword intent of Sword Sky Sect's #1 genius, Song Xianhu? He's really too strong. Many of the Emperor Swordsman's could not bear it and could not help but take a few steps back. Beneath the heavenly sword realm, Long Fei's clothes were popping and his hair was flying wildly. Song Xianhu looked down from above, a green rainbow sword in his hand, the sword shining with a gold light, his body also releasing a gold light. God's power. Long Fei smiled slightly and said, "Oh, not bad, you actually stepped into the god state. However, seems like the lesson I taught you last time was not enough. Since that's the case, then go to hell this time." Long Fei's voice sunk. He rose up from the ground and summoned the great sword in his right hand. He roared in his heart. Level 6 Ancient Dragon Body, Open. Roar. With a dragon's roar, an incomparably powerful image of Holy Dragon Emperor appeared on Long Fei's body. The dragon's roar directly shattered the pressure of the Emperor Swordsman. Long Fei pointed his long sword towards the sky. "Break for me." Rumble. The power of the heavenly god sword realm shattered as Long Fei glared at the space between his eyebrows. The power of the sword world completely shattered. Long Fei took a step forward and landed in front of Song Xianhu. Looking at Long Fei's golden dragon eyes, Song Xianhu's heart sank once again. The fear in his heart rose, fear. His body trembled. No. No. I am already a god's powerhouse, I can't possibly lose again, I can't possibly lose again. Song Xianhu clamored. Golden light exploded from his body as well. With both hands, he furiously slashed at Long Fei. Long Fei dodged it easily. Similarly, the sword slashed down. No. The 10,000 swords roared as their bodies bounced heavily in midair. Song Xianhu glared at him furiously. Facing Long Fei's sword move, he started to tremble and was too scared to move. The demonic feeling in his heart became more and more intense. Fear. Fear filled his entire body. Crack. The sword cut Song Xianhu into two. Long Fei slightly curled the corner of his mouth and said, "A single lesson is not enough, the second time would be death." Then, Long Fei looked at the 10,000 swords that flew over, looked at the sect masters, laughed sinisterly, and said, "Now it's your turn." Descending from the sky. Descending from the sky. His body exploded once more. Roar. The roar of a dragon shook the surroundings until it split open. The instant Long Fei landed on the ground, a wave of extremely strong energy blasted out. All of the so-called strongest Emperor Swordsman's could not even stand steadily, and their hearts were crushed by the dragon's might with incomparable discomfort. His face was pale. His body trembled. What kind of power? What kind of power is this? Dragon roar? Is he from the Dragon Clan? Dragon Clan? Ancient family? Wasn't it destroyed? Why is there a dragon race in this world? At first, they thought that Long Fei did not have any background, but now it seems that Long Fei was actually of the dragon race. It shocked them to the core. Although this was a mortal world, the news of Spirit Vein Mountain being destroyed had spread like wildfire. This was something that the Xians had ordered people to spread. Just warning those ancient families to go against him would be the end for the dragon race. Right now, the dragon cry had erupted from Long Fei's body. At the same time, on the Sword Sky Sect seat, Song Guqing's eyes turned sinister, seeing his son killed, his fists clenched tightly into fists. Seeing the dragon spirit shadow on Long Fei's body, his pupils tightened. No wonder Xian Ming Abyss wanted to deal with him. So it turns out that he already knew this brat's identity. He should be Long Fei, the person whom the Xian's ancestor wanted to kill. No one knew of Long Fei's name within the mortal family, but he was extremely famous among the ancient family in the divine space. A man who could fight against the Emperor Xian. A man whom Emperor Xian couldn't kill several times. A man who could make the Emperor Xian place its bounty. He is Long Fei. Song Guqing's heart tensed up. Even if Emperor Xian can't kill you, but if you kill my son, I'll definitely kill you. Song Guqing stood up. The power of an Empyrean god surged. He was not anxious to go down the stage, his gaze locked onto Long Fei. Xian Ming Abyss also laughed with interest, looking at Long Fei who was standing in the center of the training grounds. He said indifferently, Dragon Clan's power? Heh. Kid, is that all you have? Didn't your father impart to you the true power of a dragon? Xian Ming Abyss laughed and said loudly, Aya, I forgot. Your father seems to have been captured by my Xian's ancestor. I don't know if he's dead or not. Don't worry, after I kill you, I will send your father off to meet you. Xian Ming Abyss laughed coldly, and then his eyes darkened. What are you all looking at? Kill them all. Whoever kills him, I can reward him with 10 holy godhead. As soon as he finished, the eyes of the sect leaders all shone with greed. 10 holy godhead. Is this the kind of holy godhead that can become a god's powerhouse after fusing with one another? Ha ha ha. Then what are we waiting for? Kill him. Kill him. All of them felt as if they were on stimulants. To them, the most they could do was to cultivate in the Emperor Swordsman. To break through and become a god's powerhouse, fusing with the heavenly god lattice was the only way. This was their only path. Now, as long as they killed Long Fei, they would be able to obtain 10 holy godhead, which was too much of a shock to them. Long Fei stood in the middle of the martial grounds with his fists clenched tightly. The anger in his heart was raging to the extreme, thinking that his father's life and death was unknown, thinking that he had not killed Emperor Xian. He felt extremely dissatisfied, his eyes sweeping around and looking at the various sects that were rushing towards them unceasingly. The corners of the sect leader's mouth curled up, a bunch of reckless fools. With a loud clang, the 10,000 swords angrily said, Brat, the one who doesn't know life from death is you. Give me your life. Ah! A roar. With a flash, the 10,000 swords flew into the air. In an instant, a large violet sword appeared above his body. Emperor Sword. The Emperor Sword that he had comprehended with his Emperor Swordsman rank. Everyone looked up. The purple-colored greatsword flew out fiercely and crushed the entire god's material ground's sword intent. The entire sky seemed to have turned into a sharp sword tip as it smashed down. Many strongest Emperor Swordsmen kneeled on the ground as they could not take it anymore. Wan Zhen's cultivation was much higher than the average Emperor Swordsman powerhouse. Once he released the Emperor Sword, it would become even sharper. Ordinary powerhouse would not be able to withstand this kind of pressure. The evil annihilation in between the eyebrows of the 10,000 swords, the holy source came out from the depths of the pubes, like a dam releasing the power of the holy source. It crazily surged and spread outwards. The violet sword in his hand trembled slightly as well. Buzz. Wong, 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 wong. The sword chime exploded in the sky like a thunderclap. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of purple emperor swords were floating in the sky. What is this? Damn, this is the main enlargement stroke of the myriad sword sect. That's not right. Is he trying to kill us all? It can't be. No matter how powerful 10,000 swords are, they wouldn't dare to do such a thing. The 10,000 swords hung in the air. The purple sword covered the sky. This scene was exceptionally terrifying. The 10,000 swords coldly looked down at Long Fei, and said, Brat, die. A loud roar rang out. 10,000 purple emperor swords condensed in the sky and pierced heavily towards Long Fei's head. Hualala. Hualala. In midair, countless cracks appeared from the edges of the sword. Boss, be careful. Zhao Dahan was so anxious that he wanted to rush down. Bailey Tianhai held him tightly. Everyone was extremely anxious. They had never seen a battle like this before. If he went down there, he would probably die. Similarly, Long Fei was still at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman, and had not stepped into the Emperor Swordsman rank yet. He could feel the power of the infinite sword intent. However, who is he? He is Long Fei. He never knew how to write the word coward. He stood on the spot. Long Fei opened his right hand and stretched it out. Inwardly, he roared. Level 7 ancient dragon body. Open for me. Boom. Long Fei's body shook, and that image of Holy Dragon Emperor appeared as if it was real, as his right hand became a dragon claw. He opened up his 5 fingers. A dragon's might burst out. Bam! The first purple-colored Emperor sword pierced through, landing on Long Fei's palm, and was still half a meter away from Long Fei's palm. It was difficult for the violet Emperor sword to advance even a little bit. At the same moment, bang, bang, bang. The violet Emperor's sword came crashing down like a torrential downpour. Long Fei's right hand endured the endless bombardment of power as the Emperor's sword in every step smashed down like a heavy bolt of lightning. However, 10,000 Emperor swords smashed down, but Long Fei did not retreat even half a step, and those Emperor swords did not pierce into his palm. It couldn't hurt him at all. Long Fei was holding a gigantic sword autumn, which looked like a hedgehog. Long Fei smirked. The power of the Emperor sword? Ha ha. It's nothing much. Are there any stronger ones? Long Fei laughed coldly in disdain. Suddenly, Long Quang suddenly said, Master, be careful. Master, be careful. Master, be careful. The Dragon Quang suddenly shouted. Long Fei's mind also suddenly tensed up. He had been paying attention to the Violet Emperor sword this entire time, but had forgotten about the person known as the Myriad Swords. The purple-colored Emperor sword formed into a ball in Long Fei's palm, but the 10,000 swords disappeared. Following Long Quang's reminder, Long Fei's body retreated quickly, but he was still a step too late. All of a sudden, the 10,000 swords rushed out of the void and sneered, "Too slow, go die." The sword ball moved and instantly formed a sword. Right and left pincers. Shua, shua. The 1,000 sword and 1 sword, 9 nether, pierced through Long Fei's forehead. The other purple greatsword also stabbed at Long Fei's heart in an instant. Was caught off guard by these 2 moves. It was not that the strength of a level 7 dragon's body was weaker than that of 10,000 swords, but it was due to Long Fei's carelessness. Blood dripped down from his forehead. Although his heart was not injured, he was still very unhappy about being held up by an Emperor sword. The atmosphere suddenly turned silent. Xian Ming Abyss was also slightly taken aback, a little surprised. Logically speaking, Song Xianhu's cultivation was stronger than the 10,000 swords, and the level 7 dragon body was also stronger than level 6, but he was actually struck by the sword moves of the 10,000 swords. Moreover, at this moment, they were still being stabbed by 2 swords in a fatal location. Isn't this too unexpected? The faces of the surrounding sect leaders also changed. Sect head Wan is mighty. Ha ha ha. Kid, you're going to die. Arrogant. Let's see how you continue to act so arrogantly. How awesome. Everyone was excited. In their eyes, Long Fei was about to die. One was the forehead, the other was the heart. Once those 2 places were pierced through, even the immortals wouldn't be able to save them. Long Fei was waiting for death. Ha ha ha. Wan Jian laughed out loud. Dragon Clan? Fut. Trash, it's only SOSO. Not waiting for him to finish. Long Fei's eyes darkened and his body pressed down slightly. Then, he suddenly glared with his hind leg. He used his body to block it. He completely disregarded the swords in the 10,000 swords' hands, whether it was the sword between the eyebrows or the sword at the heart, he just used his own body to go forward. The expression in the eyes of the 10,000 swords changed. Their bodies sank as they gripped their swords tightly. Increase strength. The power of the Emperor swordsman was unleashed with all his might. But, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't penetrate even a centimeter into the little piece of skin between Long Fei's eyebrows at the beginning. Moreover, his hands were trembling. He couldn't take it anymore. The sword was already bent. The sword that was pointed at Long Fei's heart was the same, It could not pierce even a little. Long Fei's speed became faster and fiercer. The degree of bending of the long sword also increased. The 10,000 swords could feel the power of Long Fei's body from the long sword, that kind of defensive power, that kind of special power that continuously flowed into his body from the long sword. We can't go on like this. The 10,000 swords suddenly jumped away. However, the corner of Long Fei's mouth hooked up. You want to leave? There's no such door. Boom. He gave it a sudden push. Crack. Hualala. The long sword shattered. That violet emperor sword was also shattered, disappearing without a trace. Long Fei took a step forward, using one hand to grab the collar of the 10,000 swords. He pulled them down from the air and then heavily smashed them onto the ground. Rumble. 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 The ground cracked, and explosions could be heard from the depths of the earth. God's material ground seemed to be unable to endure it. Phut! Wn Jian spurted out a mouthful of blood, and half of the wound on his head was instantly reduced as well. He stared at Long Fei with flickering eyes, and said, You, what are you trying to do? Long Fei laughed sinisterly, and said, I want to be your ancestor. His left hand formed a fist and punched the forehead of the 10,000 swords. Boom! A punch to the head, piercing straight through the head of the 10,000 swords. The wound on his head immediately turned into 0. The system beeped. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for absorbing the enemy's level when killing myriad swords. Long Fei did not bother with the system at all. He didn't listen to what the myriad swords dropped because this monster that couldn't even be considered a boss wouldn't drop anything good. The 10,000 swords were killed by Long Fei in 2 moves. Those sect heads all wore fear on their faces and didn't dare to approach. Long Fei stared at Xianming Abyss, who was seated on his seat, and laughed faintly. Then, Long Fei's body moved. Boom! He immediately grabbed one of the sect heads, twisted his hands, and snapped his head off. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing. One of the sect masters was instantly killed. Long Fei did not stop. His eyes stared straight at Xianming Abyss, his body continuously changing positions, constantly moving, like a high-speed engine. His figure was just like an illusion, frantically changing positions. With every blink of an eye, a head would be twisted to pieces. There were more than 100 strongest emperor swordsmen in the arena. However, now, they became more than 100 xiao bai dishes. Long Fei killed them all every time he attacked. None of them had the chance to even react. He didn't even have the chance to run away. Because Long Fei's speed was too fast. Bang, bang, bang. Ding, ding. The head flew, and the system beeps rang continuously. In just a few seconds, the heads of the strongest emperor swordsmen were all in the air. Long Fei's figure stopped. He fell back to the ground. At this moment, those heads fell off one after another, and blood sprayed out from the halves of those corpses. It was like there were more than 100 fountains, and the scene was extremely bloody. Fresh blood flowed onto the god's material ground and slowly gathered, flowing out in all directions. The entire god's material ground was quiet. Fresh blood splattered onto Long Fei's body. As if he had crawled out of the pool of blood, Long Fei's eyes turned sinister, as if he was the god of death. It was so quiet that it was as if they didn't dare to breathe. Tens of thousands of eyes were staring at Long Fei, all of their faces pale white. Was he even human? The strongest person in the mortal world, more than 100 Emperor Swordsman powerhouse were killed just like that. Just like that, he was killed. It was like a dream. Who could believe it? Even the expression of Song Guqing, who had been wanting to go up the stage all this while, greatly changed. He heavily swallowed his saliva once, and his mind was already trembling as he did not dare to go up the stage anymore. Even if his son was killed and his junior brother was killed, he wouldn't dare to go up. It was like stepping into hell. Long Fei's ice-cold voice rang out, "Who else?" The entire audience did not dare to make a single sound. No one dared to look Long Fei in the eye. There was a moment of silence. Pa, pa, pa. A round of applause rang out. Xianming Abyss stood up and clapped. With a faint smile on his face, he said, "Not bad, not bad. Your performance is really not bad at all. Ha ha ha. I was just saying, how could the people of the dragon race be suppressed by this group of cannon fodder? If that's the case, can my Xianz's patriarch even issue a bounty order? Can it give an old man a headache? Long Fei raised his gaze, and said, "Now, it's your turn." Xian Ming Abyss smiled faintly and said, "My turn? Ha ha ha. Brat, you're thinking too much." As soon as he finished, Long Fei's pupils suddenly contracted to become needles. He shifted his gaze back slightly and felt the aura of death behind him. Suddenly, Long Fei felt that the chi behind him had become eerie and he was locked down like a sniper rifle. Suddenly, Long Fei felt that the chi behind him had become eerie and he was locked down like a sniper rifle. He couldn't move. If he moved, he would feel like he was going to die in the next second. Long Quang also suddenly shouted, "Master, behind you." Long Fei swallowed his saliva. Xian Ming Abyss looked at Long Fei's nervous expression and smiled slightly. "I said you're thinking too much. Do you think you can still fight me? Ha ha ha. Are you worthy?" He had never thought of doing it himself. Why didn't someone beside him use it? Why wait until the end to use your trump card? Xian Ming Abyss's character is, "The moment I come here, I'll beat you to a pulp." Long Fei did not expect this either. He did not expect Xian Ming Abyss to instantly send out the super powerhouse who was hiding in the darkness, so he was now right behind him. The key. If this fellow were to hide his body, you wouldn't be able to identify his current position. Long Fei squinted and asked in his heart, "Can we confirm the location?" Long Quang shook his head, "I'm not sure. However, I can confirm that this guy's aura is dark attributed." Darkness attribute? Long Fei immediately thought of the people from the Dark Temple. Dark Temple is still here? That's not right. If it's someone from the Dark Temple, he should be the first to snatch the phoenix, so it's impossible for him to deal with me first. Long Fei frowned. Who could that be? Is there any way to force him to show himself? Or is there a way to deal with him? Who it was wasn't important. What was important was to beat him to a pulp. Long Quang thought for a moment and said, "I can't think of a way. This guy is too strong, and his aura is extremely ancient as well. It's just like the aura from several trillion years ago. Millions of years ago? Then how strong was this guy? Damn. In other words, it really is a super boss." Long Fei was excited when he thought of the boss. Looking at Xian Ming Abyss's pleased expression, his lips curled up slightly. The aura on his body stirred. Then let's raise it a little more. Level 8 dragon body, open. Rumble. 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 With a thunderous explosion, the power on Long Fei's body surged out like a tsunami, directly shaking God's material ground. The sky and the ground were covered by this power. Long Fei's entire body was glowing with a golden light. This was the light emitted by the dragon's scale. From rank 7 to rank 8, his aura underwent a drastic change. It was as if energy was gushing forth from every breath he took. Xian Ming Abyss revealed a disdainful smile. "Oh, you can even increase your strength. Not bad. However, it's no use at all. You don't even dare to move now, right?" Xian Ming Abyss mocked Long Fei. Long Fei closed his eyes slightly. He had not activated Ancient Dragon Body of the 8th level just to increase his own strength, but he had used the power of the gush to find out the location of the powerhouse. Sound wave. The sound waves created by his strength would be slightly reverberated against any obstructions. Use this reverberation to find the location. Suddenly, Long Fei opened his eyes, which flashed with a sharp light. "Heh. I found it." His fists sank. Whoosh. His figure disappeared, and in the next second, Long Fei was in the air, punching out heavily. "Come out." Crack. Rumble. The power on Long Fei's fist seemed to have exploded as the surrounding space started to crack. How fierce was the power of a level 8 ancient dragon body? When this fist landed, even God's powerhouse would instantly be smashed into smithereens. However, when Long Fei punched down, bam! A big black hand suddenly appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Long Fei's fist. He clenched his fist. Phut! The power of the ancient dragon body on Long Fei's fist was like a fart, being crushed without a trace. It could be said that he had instantly crushed them. Long Fei's pupils contracted as he tried to pull out his fist. But it was impossible for him to move. No matter how much he struggled, it was useless. He could not move at all. At the same time, the super powerhouse slowly revealed himself. He was as black as an African. His skin was covered with various runes, and his pupils were completely black, like two black holes. He was wearing a tattered cloak and a black cloak. The Black Death aura was burning like fire. Strong enough to explode. Just like how a giant who had been asleep for 10,000 years suddenly awakened and exploded with power, Long Fei felt like he was a small ant in front of the giant. This feeling was indescribable. This is. Long Fei's eyes trembled a little as he looked at the big fellow in front of him. At this moment, Dragon Quang suddenly shouted, "God of Underworld." "Huh?" Long Fei was startled, and said, "That's not possible, didn't God of Underworld die a long time ago?" Back then, when Long Batian fell, the Ming clan rose up and became the overlord of the ancient world. It was just that. Afterwards, the Xians rose up strongly and started a war with the Ming clan. The God of Underworld was killed by the Emperor Xian. This was something that everyone knew. Long Quang firmly said, "I can't be wrong, I have seen him before, I can't forget his looks at all. Furthermore, the deathly aura that was burning like fire on his body, he is the God of Underworld, an existence no one can copy. But why is it like this? The God of Underworld was killed by the Emperor Xian, why would they appear here? This is why." Even Long Quang didn't know what was going on. However, he was terrified. Because it was not because of the God of Underworld, but because the appearance of the God of Underworld made him think that the Xians had always been searching for his master's, Long Batian's, body. He had always wanted to enter the ancient Azura abyss. Could it be? The Xians had mastered a powerful secret art. It could revive a dead person. If that was the case, then Long Batian was suppressed by the Zhentian stones and lost his life, but his body had reached an indestructible state, so even after countless years, his body would not be broken. If the Emperor Xian could really revive it, if they listened to his orders, the consequences would be unimaginable. "What's the matter with you?" Long Fei asked the panicking Long Quang. Long Quang heavily swallowed his words, and said, "We have to enter the divine space a little faster, we must find your previous body before the Emperor Xian arrives." "Huh?" Long Fei was startled. "Long Quangdao, your body once concealed too many secrets, in the past, it was just a repression of boundary stones. These cannot be obtained by the Xians, if not." Long Quang became extremely nervous. It was the first time Long Fei had seen him so nervous. "Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Scared?" Xian Ming Abyss laughed proudly. Long Fei regained his senses, his heart sinking. He was still thinking of entering the divine space, but right now he was being held onto by the God of Underworld, unable to move. He didn't even know how to escape. "What are you talking about, entering the divine space? Are you scared?" "Heh. You'll be even more confused soon." Xian Ming Abyss laughed coldly and said, "Do it." "God of Underworld, do it. God of Underworld, do it." Xian Ming Abyss said in a commanding tone. God of Underworld raised his eyes. A ray of black light flashed through his empty eyes as he stared straight at Long Fei. As he waited, Long Fei felt as if his entire body was bound by death itself. He didn't dare move an inch, fear continuously rising up from the depths of his heart. This feeling. It was too hard. To be unable to move, it was as though he was being tightly restrained by someone. Long Quang also heavily swallowed his saliva, and said, He is about to make a move. Not waiting for him to finish, God of Underworld suddenly grabbed Long Fei's arm and smashed heavily onto the ground. Bam! The ground exploded, leaving a several-meter-deep crater. Black flames burned around the pit. Long Fei spat out blood as he struggled with all his might. It was impossible for him to break free. He could not struggle at all. It was as if his hand was stuck on a machine. Suddenly, God of Underworld raised his hand again, throwing Long Fei away. Hualala. Long Fei's body drew an arc, directly slicing through the sky. His body colliding with the air, it was as though his entire body was about to split open. Bam! Rumble. It smashed into the ground on the other side. Buzz. The ground exploded, creating another huge crater. Phut. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Long Fei's face turned pale. The worst part was that he couldn't break free. Moreover, the strength of his body was completely suppressed. The power of the ancient dragon body could not be released and was completely suppressed. Long Fei roared, "Dragon Kwong, isn't the ancient dragon body Long Batian's power? Wasn't Long Batian the #1 powerhouse? Why was his strength suppressed by the god of Underworld? Now, you can't even move, what's going on?" Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. When Long Batian was here, the god of Underworld wasn't his match at all. Long Batian's ancient dragon body should be stronger than the god of Underworld. However, Long Fei was completely unable to release his power. Long Guangdao, god of Underworld, is someone from the same period of time as Master. This is still his own flesh, but your flesh is still in the ancient Azura abyss. Your current strength is not even 1/10,000th of what it was before, even if it's similarly the strength of the ancient dragon body. It's completely different. I felt it just now, and the power of this god of Underworld is still weaker than before. If it's the power of his peak, then I'm afraid. One move and you're dead now. What kind of person was the god of Underworld? The former hegemon. The second person to rule over the ancient world after Long Batian had fallen. After so many years had passed, even the strength of his fleshly body was enough to crush Long Fei. The reason why Long Fei was still alive was because the god of Underworld's strength had weakened. Not like before. Are you mocking me? Long Fei felt unwell in his heart. Long Guangdao, how dare I laugh at you? What I said was the truth. His current power probably isn't even 10% of his peak state. I don't know why. Is it because he's been dead for so many years? It shouldn't be possible. God of Underworld's body should also be trained to the point of being indestructible. It's impossible for it to become weaker due to time, there must be another reason. Suddenly, Long Fei thought about the power of ancient inheritance on his body. There was a Ming clan mark on his arm. He had obtained the inheritance of the underworld. Long Fei asked, could it be because of the ancient inheritance's power, nether energy? Long Kwong suddenly understood, and said, yes. It's because of this reason that I know that he became a god of Underworld, because he obtained the power of the ancient inheritance, which was why he was able to create the Ming clan. But they have lost their super force of Ming clan. No wonder. The power he inherited has disappeared. Long Fei said anxiously, don't talk about that anymore, what power do you care about? Right now, the most important thing is to protect my life, to retaliate. While they were talking, Long Fei's body was lifted up once again. Rumble. He hit the ground again. All of the bones in Long Fei's body had been broken, several of them were broken, black blood came out of his mouth, and his face was especially pale. F***CK. Long Fei clenched his teeth and roared. Xian Ming Abyss laughed coldly, ha ha ha. Kid, how does this feel? You think you can go against our Xians? He's simply overestimating himself. Do you know why you escaped before? That's because those people are trash, and that's because you didn't meet me. Once. I'll flip your day over once. Ha ha ha. Xian Ming Abyss laughed excitedly. As long as he could get Long Fei's head, he would receive the master's reward. At that time, he might even be able to become the Xian's second powerhouse. There was no need to waste any more time in this mortal world. Thinking of this, Xian Ming Abyss couldn't help but burst out laughing, ha ha ha. No way. I want to go down. I can't help it. Zhao Dahan clenched his teeth so hard that it made a cracking sound. He was too manic in his heart, and seeing Long Fei being abused like this, he felt really uncomfortable in his heart. It was the same for brothers of 5 elements. Their eyes were all wet. However, Bailey Tianhai said heavily, "Don't forget the mission that boss gave us. Do you understand? Even if we go down, what can we do? If we can't do anything, we'll just become the boss burden." The god of underworld was too strong. Let alone helping Long Fei, they couldn't even get close to him. Could not help Long Fei at all. They could only watch as Long Fei was beaten to a pulp. Everyone could only watch on. Is there a way? Long Fei asked loudly. Long Guangdao, I'm still thinking. Long Fei said, "By the time you think about it, even I would be killed by him." His health point was now less than a third, and he would be crippled after another 2 or 3 moves. Moreover, he was almost crippled now. His entire body was covered in wounds. He couldn't take it anymore. "I want to counterattack. F***ck, I don't care." Long Fei could not tolerate it. No matter what, he had to do something. Was he going to be abused like this? This was not his character. Long Quang's mind went cold. "Master, you can't be rash. Don't be a bird." Ah! Long Fei moved and released the idea. A drop. 2 drops. 3 drops. He went straight to the 10th drop. Long Fei's body glowed with a red light. Just like a piece of red-hot iron. His entire body was twitching. However, now that his strength had been completely crushed and he did not know how to release the power of the Emperor, he could only forcefully overdraft the strength in his body. 10 essence and blood. In his mind, spirit blood was revolving. Long Quang was trembling. "Master, this is too dangerous." "I don't care." Long Fei's eyes became tight, and he roared, 12-rate ancient dragon body. Paragon level. Strength. Open. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.